Hello again, and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial, and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you are very welcome. The Master's Voice is an audio and a visual resource that you can find on multiple streaming platforms. I highly recommend that if you're someone who's been here for less than 6 months, that you would benefit greatly from my audio podcasts. You can find those on Apple, and you can find it on Spotify, on SoundCloud. There are other free-to-air podcasts that just automatically pick up the RSS stream of the Master's Voice Prophecy blog. Those are Listen Notes, Odyssey, Podtail, and places like that where you don't actually have to sign up for an account. To get to my podcast, all you have to do is type in the Master's Voice Prophecy blog podcast, and you will see all the listening options listed in the different search engines. Some of the search engines don't exactly bring good results, such as Google, for obvious reasons, because over the years, due to what I cover here and due to the sensitive nature of a lot of the prophetic material that God has given me over the last 11 to 12 years, major mainstream channels like this one that I'm using, like YouTube, like Facebook, even WhatsApp, these things are dedicated to suppressing this channel so that people will not hear, so that people will not be aware of what God is saying. And so there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of resistance, and none of those things are going to be successful in the end. But I'm just letting you know that sometimes it takes a little bit of legwork, sometimes it takes a little bit of elbow grease for you to be able to settle in here and truly benefit from what God has brought forward. So try to use a different search engine. There are lots of other search engines that you could try. You could try Opera browser, you could try Firefox, you could try, I don't know what else there is, but there are quite a few others. I think there's one called Brave. You could try anything else that is not exactly mainstream if you're looking for where to follow the audio. Benefit of the audio is that you can go hands-free, just like people spend time listening to murder mystery podcasts, people spend time listening to financial podcasts, they spend time listening to political podcasts. You could spend your time listening to God's Word, because God has many things to say to America. I have been here for 6 years now. May 29, 2025 marks the 6-year anniversary of the Master's Voice. Today is the just a moment, please. Today's the 28th, so tomorrow makes it 6 years that I have been bringing forth the prophetic word of the Lord. I am a child of God who has had dreams since I was very young. The Lord gives me prophetic dreams. The Lord would reveal certain things to me. And as I grew and I came into the knowledge of who God is, God began to call out, shape directly, and also through others that I was submitted to as I grew up in the house of the Lord. And that is all I will say about that. I have dreams. I hear the voice of God distinctly as he speaks to me. As he said to his servant Moses, I will speak to my servant Moses as a friend, face to face. I hear God directly. I see visions. I have night dreams. I see things in the daytime as well. And I receive direct dictation from God that I have been reading out to people for the last 6 years here. And while it has not been the easiest of roads, because I'm dedicated to making sure that what God has to say comes out, it is getting accomplished, and a lot has been covered. I've lost count of how many videos. I think there's maybe 700 plus videos. Not all my videos are available here. You have to go to my other alternate channels. You can get all the videos, for instance, on the podcast, but I have alternate video channels such as there's Rumble, there's BitChute, there's Brighteon. I have a Telegram channel. I have a Twitter. I have different social media like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and quite a few other things. Basically, just look underneath the video in the description box. If there's nothing in this description box, then you can simply look under older videos. You'll find all the places to get in touch with this blog. And I have been saying here for the last 6 years that despite the strong American resistance to surrendering to the headship of God, something that has been lost in this nation, the the absolute understanding, because it has been poorly taught, but also because the heart of the populace of this country is extremely hardened through repetitive operation of sin, through the dumbing down of the population by having sin in every corner, everything that God hates, everything that is actually precluded by the Bible. People are so used to it in America that the sin of America has proliferated itself, meaning that it's spread up like mold, like rash, like lichen up the bark of a tree, and it has spilled over into all the nations of the world. And this is why this is Mystery Babylon. And Mystery Babylon is going to be completely destroyed, as is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 18. So if you are any type of Christian, whether you are a lukewarm Christian, whether you are a medium warm Christian, whether you are a red hot Christian, whether you're not a Christian at all and you've just come across this video, God is telling you that as long as you are, number one, an American, or number two, from anywhere else, and you're living in the United States, there are going to be, from the time that I've been speaking since I started in May 2019 up until now and going into the future, there are going to be such powerful changes in what makes America. There's going to be such powerful shifts in what forces will drive and control America in the future, that the people who belong to America are going to become absolutely subjugated to powers. This is physical, natural powers. This includes a physical, natural power, such as will be unleashed against this country from the elements. I'm talking about the sun. I'm talking about the rain. I'm talking about natural disasters, such as earthquakes, such as floods. We will see tsunamis in the future on both the east and the west coast. We're going to see almost kind of glacial activity. The winters in America are going to become harrowing as we go into the future. Same for the summers. The temperatures that God will unleash against this country will become so dangerous that people will be prone to external skin diseases, because the sun is going to be burning and disfiguring people, as part of what you can actually read in the book of Revelation, as how the sun scorched people, and as the sun was scorching people, people were cursing God. So America is definitely included in many of the end times judgments that you can find in the book of Revelation, because the most obstinate people in the world live here. And that is not a statement that I need to qualify. That is not a statement that I need to say in case you're upset about it or in case you're angry. Here are the reasons. These are statements that come directly from God's heart to the American people. God says that the people in America are the most hardened people towards righteousness and goodness, and the most open-hearted people towards sin, meaning that every single type of thing that God hates will be able to find a comfortable home here in America. And not only will sin be able to find a home here in America, but sin will always have an advocate in an American, meaning that as long as you can point to something and say that is a sin, there will be a huge crowd standing up to defend that sin. As soon as God raises up a voice to identify sin, people will say, why are you identifying the sin? Why are you pointing to that sin? Why are you exposing it? Why are you naming it by its name? Who told you that that's even a sin? Do you know how many people do that? Do you know how many people are doing just that? Who told you that's a sin? That's a lifestyle. So that is what happens here. Not only are the people always willing to find a space to welcome sin in, but sin will always have a group of people, usually millions, in the way that they think and practice their daily life, who will stand up for egregious sins such as homosexuality, such as fornication, such as adultery, such as having loose lifestyles that are prone to drinking, smoking, taking of substances. People will take substances in this country and then say that they need it to relax, they need it to de-stress, and things like that. And I just want to let you know something that God was putting on my heart today when I was having a little bit of exercise, is that people who continue to take these things that you puff on, the colored nicotine, e-cigarettes, the vape stick, whatever that is. You're going to get cancer in your mouth. You're going to get cancerous sores in your mouth and in your throat. And God says a lot of you that you will not make it, because he says that these sticks, you use it and you tell yourself in your heart, here is the excuse that he was putting in my heart, as if I'm a person that has ever touched these things. The excuse that was coming up in my heart when the Lord was just laying it on me about what this punishment will be, is that people use these sticks and they continuously justify to themselves that it's not as bad as nicotine, because that is what is marketed to them by these people who are giving you just something that is not even an alternative to nicotine. It's just a nicotine with different skin. It's just nicotine in a different font. But then they tell you it's less addictive based on who knows what type of research that they've obviously paid the FDA to funnel through and pass it and say, yes, it's legit. If you are an American, I'm just speaking here by the Spirit of the Lord, according to whatever is flowing through my spirit, because Yah has been saying so many things that even though I was able to capture some of it down, which is the prophecy for today, I didn't capture all of it. So as it comes through, I'm just going to give it to you live, and it's just going to be live prophecy plus whatever I just got written down in the last 40 minutes or so, because people will justify the thing that they are doing. And God is actually saying, and has been saying to me today, that we have come to the end of the road for the justification of sin, since people are now at the point where they are complacent in sin, and they also have a little linchpin in the ticking time bomb of having sin in their life, and they just have their finger in that grenade pin, like, oh, but it's less addictive than nicotine and stuff like that. God is actually telling me that not only will you get cancerous sores in your mouth, but that thing you refuse to pull the trigger on, and I'm talking about just e-cigarettes. I'm not even talking about the more dangerous portal things like weed, like alcohol. I'm just talking about e-cigarettes. Puff, puff, and then the little smoke comes out. God says that there's going to be the payment and the penalty of madness for smoking those things. Those little cartridges that you put in them, pink and blue and raspberry flavored and stuff like that, you are going to go over to the other side. A lot of you have been watching this evil program that you should not be watching, called Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is the show, if you see the trailer of it, that actually depicts what I've been talking about here for a long time, that there is another side. If you watch one of my old prophecies from, I think it's 2021, it's called A People of Madness. There's A People of Madness Part 1 and A People of Madness Part 2. And in A People of Madness Part 2, I was talking about how there's going to be mass departure from the mind of many Americans. And that affliction of madness is going to come against this country as part of God's judgment for a people who truly intellectualize the existence of sin. What is sin? Is sin really sin? And even if it's sin, is my sin sin? Let me send Celestial a mail and tell her about a situation that I can easily read in the Bible and see that it's sinful, but I just want to hear someone who looks like an authority figure tell me that, yes, if you're doing the same thing that's in the Bible, then you also fall under the category of sin. So because people intellectualize the existence of sin, and then also they are very complacent in warring against sin to get sin out. The Lord was simply highlighting this one issue of e-cigarettes and saying that you are literally going to put that thing in your mouth and take a puff of cherry flavored smoke like you always do. And the next thing is you will find yourself in that Stranger Things dimension. You're going to find yourself there. You're not going to be able to come back. You're going to be stuck in that dimension where demons, devils, creatures, and unshapable darkness. There's darkness that actually is alive. It's not like the darkness that happens outside when the sun goes down and the moon comes up. There is a darkness that can take amorphous forms. It can form itself and it will be right there in front of you, and you will lose your mind and you will get stuck in that other so-called other dimension that movie calls the upside down. Personally, I have no name for it, but I have been constantly talking about a realm where you will be conscious on that side, screaming and screaming and screaming because of the things that you will see. But on this side, as soon as you start that screaming from over there, I said that they will medicate you, and you will be sitting in a little cotton gown and rocking, and your family will be coming to see you and thinking, I think he's getting better. I think he can hear us. There'll be nothing like that, all for the sake of puffing, because it may seem like, oh, what an extreme judgment, what an extreme punishment for just puffing on an e-cigarette. But actually, the greater understanding of what you have done is that you have continued to drag garbage into the temple of the Lord, which the body is. You have refused to take the trash out. You have refused to take the garbage out. You have refused to remain celibate because you want to have sex, because you think that you're the only person on earth that God is going to give a pass to. And so eventually, for the continual pulling of large sacks of trash into the temple, God is simply going to shut the door on revolving in and out of sin. And just for that simple addiction, which the world will constantly justify. You bring this up now in the midst of people who vape, and they will fight you all day. And the reason they will fight you all day, I've already explained as I'm speaking, is because there is no desire to cut off sin in the hearts of the majority of people in this country. Whenever the conversation of sin arises, the average American immediately becomes sensitized on the devil's side to say, how do you know all this? How do you know that the things that you're saying is true? We shouldn't judge. Right now, the perfect example for that is that a man is on trial, and every single day of his trial, worse information about the monstrosity that he secretly was comes out. But people just keep saying, I'm not one to judge any man. I'm not one to judge any man. Only God can really judge this man. And yet, as God is in the process of using man's own systems to judge this person, people continue to say that there has to be a wide gap left for even a reprobate to come back. But that's not the way God does things. There is no room for reprobates to come back. That is why God is very clear in the book of Romans 1 that when you enter into the arena reserved for the reprobates, he will give you over to the reprobate mind. And that mind is always on a one-way pipeline to hell. The reason that people think that there also is forgiveness and grace and room for the reprobate to come back is because people refuse to read God's word and acknowledge that God also has a cut-off point. God warns about his cut-off point. He says that grace does not abound, so sin can abound. But people read that and think, oh, he doesn't mean that, because people always think that God is the one more chance God, but he's not. So that is just one thing I have to say. God has been speaking to me about war for a very long time. However, I'm not here to talk about physical war, the kind of war that goes with shelling and bombing and things like that. Something that God has been saying to me for quite a few days, but has not really developed it. Was that America is about to start her war years. So he's just been saying it, and I've been wondering, am I really hearing it clearly? Am I really hearing the Lord properly? And tonight, God has confirmed that I have been hearing him properly. He has been saying that 2026, God has already started to talk about 2026. That 2026 is going to be America's war years, the start of America's war years. So before I go into that prophecy, we are currently in 2025. I might as well just say that we're in June 2025. We're in the middle of 2025. And in 2023, which was prophesied in April of 2023, God said that 2023 was going to be called the year of the test. So 2023, God says, in amidst many of the prophecies I made, God said that 2023 was going to be the year that people, saved and unsaved, were going to be greatly tested in their personal lives People were going to see what was really on the inside of them. People were going to see the things that they prayed for, the things that they worked so hard for, had they taken the time to also develop the kind of character that would be able to hold on to those things. God said that a lot of people were going to fail the test because people are prone to desire more and desire better without also adjusting their brains to the fact that more and better doesn't come to the lazy, slothful, envious, useless, greedy, I want to sleep until 12 in the afternoon type of person. So people automatically aspire to greater because greater is put in front of their eyes all the time. Look at this lifestyle. Look at this car. Look at this woman. Look at this man. Don't you want these better things? And so people aspire to higher things, but they don't want to work on the type of anchoring character and the type of anchoring biblicality. There's no other way I can put it. Biblicality, literally having a Gideon nature, having a Joshua nature, having a Caleb nature, having a King David nature, a Moses and Abrahamic nature, the kind of nature that radiates above all things righteousness, so that that thing can anchor you as you climb upward. Climbing upward in life always brings higher winds. If you look at a coconut tree, there's tons of them in Miami and around the world. For instance, coconut tree has a thicker base, but the taller the coconut tree goes, it tends to sway. That is what promotion is like. The higher you go, there's greater temptation, there's greater opportunities, but there's also more access to sin. There's greater access to money. There's greater access to the kind of people who don't want to work on their character, who don't want to work on their righteousness. They want to eat human flesh and sleep with each other in the backside all day long and twice on the weekend. And so the higher you go, the more you find yourself surrounded with unclean people, surrounded with unclean situations, surrounded with more access to booze, to drugs, to psychedelic mushrooms, to six girls, having a six-some if that is what you've never had before. The higher you go, the thinner the palm tree becomes, yet the fruit is up there at the top. And as you're climbing, this thing tends to sway. If you've ever gone on tropical holiday or you see where coconut trees are, it takes a very skilled person to be able to climb the smooth bark of a coconut tree and be able to access the coconuts without falling off and smashing open their cranium by mistake. What am I saying? Not everyone can ascend to the heights. And that means that you're either going to get there the dirty way or God is going to put you there. And if God is the one who put you there, you're going to need to be kept. And if you do not develop the kind of receiver in your spirit, if your entire body does not become the kind of radio receiver that can constantly keep hearing God's signal in the midst of, hey, let's go do some crack, and hey, let's go do this, and hey, let's go to this island and hunt human beings because we're bored with normal rich people activity, what's going to happen is that you're eventually going to fall out of that tree and crack your skull. God said, even as the prophecy was coming forth in April 2023, that a lot of people simply did not have the kind of ballast, the kind of word of God in them, the kind of righteous spirit in them, the kind of good heart in them, the kind of I'm going to lay at the feet of Jesus and I'm going to ask Jesus to help me with this project. Because this is for a very big account. There's 2 million on the line. I've just been promoted. It's only been 4 months and I just don't want to fall flat on my face. A lot of people have this I got this mentality. There's no such thing as I've got this in the house of the Lord. You look at King Hezekiah, you look at King David, they tried to stay dependent on God, and that is why they had very long and successful reigns. At no point does a smart person ever think in Christianity, I've got this, I've seen this before. Humility before God will get you everywhere. And as soon as you start to think, oh, I've been driving the car for a while with the Holy Spirit, I know how it goes, you're automatically going to smash into the highway wall and you will have to go back to the beginning. A lot of people, even though you are subscribers to this place and you get access to true Christianity, it's not cheap Christianity. It's Christianity that I've paid a price for. It's not Christianity that I got off the hickeys or I got from Creflo Dollar. It is tried and true Christianity that has produced the fruit that you've been sitting here and eating. You hear these things, but sometimes you walk away and you immediately go off center. A lot of people have had to go back to the starting position, lost everything. Instead of multiplying, instead of growing, would be watching me with skepticism, would be watching me and then listening to the single-celled organisms on the internet say that I'm a witch and I'm a false prophet, and somehow those videos are not being made anymore. And it's such a shame, because they used to really entertain my intercessors. I myself personally did not watch them, but now none of those things are being made, and everybody is mute, and it's so boring for the Master's Voice Prophecy team, but then that's life. Instead of centering yourself in what God was saying here, a lot of people have slid down the coconut tree, and that is basically a recap of the 2023 prophecy, the year of the test. People failed the test. God said the test was going to continue into 2024. In December 2023, it was prophesied that 2025 would be the year that the wheels fall off. That prophecy needs no introduction. Yah expanded it at the beginning of January 2025, and we are right in the middle of it now. Saw something very tragic today. A young woman just graduated summa cum laude. Do you know what that means? It means that in the entire school, she was the second biggest brain. The only brain that was bigger than her was the person who graduated magna. She graduated from an HBCU summa cum laude, went on holiday in the Bahamas the next day, and both her legs have been chopped off by a boat propeller. She was a young person celebrating and being tipsy, and she has become a victim of the freak accident prophecy that I've been making the whole of 2024, saying that terrifying freak accidents are going to happen to people. I've been speaking, and I've been saying that when you hear how people are going to get hurt and how people are going to die, you're going to sit there blinking, because it's going to sound like a cartoon death, a cartoon accident. A young person that worked for 3 or 4 years to get a bachelor's, bright shining future in front of her, is now facing life as a double amputee simply because of falling off the side of a boat while not in her full senses. And the coldness of the United States, the heartlessness, the proof that this nation is fulfilling the Bible scripture that says, and men's hearts will grow cold, the love of man will grow cold, is half the internet is justifying what has happened to this child by saying, well, she took alcohol. Imagine the irony of the drunkest nation on earth. The people talking to this young person are probably knocking back cases of beer every year, every year, every day. But because nothing has happened to them yet, they say they're trying to justify and say that this horrific thing that has happened, well, if she wasn't drinking, as if what do young people do supposedly when they want to celebrate? These things are happening. People are losing their lives. The youth are dying exactly as prophesied. And God said that America was basically going to start going left. Right now, there is a war on foreigners. The president of America has basically activated a particular section of what basically used to be inactive in many other administrations. The ICE people, the customs and people, and they're now almost like an attack force deployed throughout the nation, scattering the Black, brown, and foreign-born throughout the country. And there was a prophecy for that in 2019. It's been on the blog if you would like to go and read it. It's called The Taskmasters, where God was talking about how America treats the foreigner, the heartless manner in which America treats the foreigner. And American would say, well, people need to do it the right way. But apparently, even the green card holders who did it the right way haven't quite done it the right way. And that is par for the course for the hypocrisy of this country. And of course, there will be an answer for that from God as well. So 2025 was prophesied to be the year that the wheels fall off. One of the prophecies that was made in 2024 concerning medical aid in the United States, something that is naturally provided by the government in conjunction with the insurance companies. I prophesied by the Lord that this would go away, that American healthcare programs would go away. And right now, the latest development of hundreds of development that hardly anyone can keep up with is that Medicaid is going to suffer massive cuts, which means to a large extent, this nation is going to not be covered for healthcare. And this is a very sickly nation because this is a nation addicted to pharmakia, addicted to the taking of pills, the taking of drugs, the taking of everything that can be taken, both legal and illegal. And so when you marry the fact that the government is actively looking to increase things like military spending, increase things like police uniforms and police deployment and ICE deployment, and yet decrease something so necessary as healthcare, then you will understand what I was saying all along in 2019 when God says that the decline of America is going to see that the government is not going to support any social programs, whether it's welfare, whether it's Medicare, whether it's the unemployment fund for when you lose your job and you can basically draw, unemployment benefits until you get another job. The government is not going to support anything social because the punishment of America is that the society should basically decline to the level of a third world country so that life will be in this country like a boiling frog until people can't stand it anymore and they rise up and revolt, and then there's going to be a war. So the prophecy for today is 2026. America's war years are coming. 2026, America's war years are coming. And what the Lord was saying to me, I have notes here, but what the Lord was just basically has been saying to me is 2026 is America's war years. America's war years. And when I was first hearing it over previous series of days, I was thinking, Lord, 2026 is around the corner. Are you saying that we're going to have an actual war? Because I have prophesied about war here since 2020. Physical shooting war with displacement of people and civil war and running away to other countries and being a refugee. And God has said that the majority of Americans, those who survive, they're not going to die here and they're not going to ever be able to come back. That America's not going to be called home by anyone, that people are going to be in diaspora, the same way that America has funded wars in other countries and caused people's lives to be destroyed and caused people to become refugees. And then when they try to come here for asylum, then America rejects them, even though America's hands and America's manipulations are behind a lot of the conflicts, the wars, and the international destabilizations that we've seen over the past 5 to 6 decades. American greed and American hegemony has been behind a lot of global destabilization. And I have multiple prophecies to that effect. And God says that he who starts a war will eventually suffer and go down by war. And America is going to have wars as well. But it's not going to be immediate, the kind of war that goes with bullets and nuclear explosions and everything like that. And it's not talking about the prophesied invasion of the United States by Russia and China either. So let us look at what Yah is saying. 2026 is the start of America's war years. The war years are coming. Financial war, economic war, global war, spiritual war, struggling to keep your mental health, war in the press, war on Capitol Hill and Washington, D.C., between the president and his closest aides and cabinet members, machete-style exchanges in the press and the war room, the place where they meet to make decisions that will impact the whole United States. The situation room, the war room, the place where dialogue is heated and policy is shaped, will become a literal battlefield. And too many details about what goes on there will spill into the press for America to witness how the country, and especially the leadership of the United States, the greatest so-called country in the world, is coming apart at the seams. War of words, battle of wills. Watch them go at it on Capitol Hill until blood flows from the ruling party due to bipartisan dueling that is going to take more than one head from the chairs they have held so long. Senators and other high-ranking officials are going to lose their heads in this thing. axed from their positions, which have started to feel like lifetime legacy seats to them because of how long they've held them. War of words, war of the press, war of obituaries as careers get buried for good. And so God has been saying that next year, before we even get there, Americans should know that basically we're going now into a time of battling. And you even hear the Lord putting in the midst of the head of this prophecy, which is basically looking at the head of the nation, political dueling, political battling, bipartisan fighting. God is saying, obviously, this nation has more than one party, but it might as well just be one party, because behind the scenes, the red party, the Republicans and the Democrats are the same. They're controlled from one central hub that is called the deep state. A lot of Americans following their own secular logic and this inbuilt sense of superiority continue to mock at the idea that there could be a higher power or a higher network controlling what they feel is their free and fair electoral process and their free and fair political process. But America is a very well stirred pot where there's lots of mixing, there's lots of politicking, there's lots of bribe giving and bribe taking, there's lots of sexual favors in order to get things done, there's lots of secret recording, there's lots of bribery and threatening and pressure and duress, and all of this is mixed in together with the fact that there is indeed a master puppet hand behind the scenes determining what happens in the Punch and Judy show. Punch and Judy show is like a play where you have puppets talking to each other and sometimes fighting and sometimes hugging at the end. It's a play to entertain children, and that is what the American political process is like. I've been saying that for years, but people continue to believe in separation of powers. For instance, they continue to believe that the executive is independent, the legislative is independent, the judges are independent. They continue to believe that they, the people, the citizens, play a very important part, a very important role in how the political process of America runs. But nothing could be further from the truth. And as I go forward, you will even hear that even above the human controlling hand, there is another hand that is not even of this world. And so God just makes mention, just one line here, talking about battling and struggling for your mental health. And that is something that we're really seeing increase, but it hasn't even increased to the point that it's going to increase. And like I said, not everything in this prophecy is written down. One of the things that God was showing me or telling me in my spirit as I was trying to keep up with him and write down everything is that you're going to see family members in people's families having one final breakdown of all time. So Yah says it's going to be that this person will suddenly start freaking out or whatever, and people are going to be taking it in their stride, like, oh, maybe he just had a hard day at the job. Maybe they really messed with him on his last shift and everything. And you know, especially with the younger generation, they call it a crash out. They're going to be like, yeah, you know, he must be tired. It's a valid crash out. It's a valid crash out. But actually, that is the end of a candle burning in a person's life. A person is going to have one last crash out, one last loud verbal altercation, something like that. And if it does not end in violence, okay, if that person doesn't actually end up picking up a knife or a gun and causing harm in their family or in the store or in their job or wherever it is, that this one last final supernova burst of a person's brain comes to an end before they completely move into the realm of crazy. If it doesn't end in violence, it's definitely going to end in goodbyes, whereby those people are going to be going into the system to be processed as mental health patients. I'm not talking about you get to go and see a psychologist and they recommend medication that you can then come home and be taking that medication and your family is around you and your family is treating you with kid gloves and they're like, we're going to get you better. Grandma's going to pray for you, or we're going to make sure that you're on the medication and that you get better. We're just concerned about you getting better. It's going to be a goodbye into the realm of total madness, rocking madness, delusions of grandeur madness. So the battle for mental health, God is saying, is something that people need to pay attention to. And that means practically that you need to avoid stressors. You need to avoid the things that stress you. You need to prioritize your peace. You need to realize that, for instance, social media is nothing but a constant bait and switch. That there are people on social media who actually draw a very healthy salary simply to go into the comment sections and say, I don't think the rapist did anything wrong, just so a lot of people can come. It's called putting chum in the water. Like when you're searching for sharks, you just throw bloody meat and then the sharks will come and start eating, and then you can harpoon them if you're trying to hunt for sharks. And so there are people who are on the internet that are paid simply to provoke, simply to play the devil's advocate, simply to act daft, as if a clear moral right and wrong is beyond them, because it triggers conversation. And if you are one who gets caught up in that kind of thing without knowing, it's going to be scratching off the silver lining from your brain. And when your brain is all scratched off, just like a scratch off that reveals the number, that number is going to say crazy, and you might end up in the people who are going to be getting funneled into the nursing homes. So just have an understanding of that God is talking about peace and mindset as a priority for his people. Conform your mind to the word of God. Stop being concerned with who did that over there and who is trending over here for this. And you don't always have to have an opinion on every talking point, because the majority of the people on the internet are people who are not going to heaven. They are people who are not pleasing to God. They do not have godly ways. They do not have a godly mindset. And as I'm speaking, I am not thinking about the secular non-born again people. I am talking about people who firmly believe themselves to be Christians. Their hearts are not aligned with Christ. Their minds are not aligned with Christ. They have absolutely no interest in what it means to become Christ-like. They are married to the image of themselves. Oh, I don't tolerate that baby, and I this, and I'm a child. They are not children of God. They are masters of deception to the point where they are deceived about themselves being outside of the pure will of God for his people. And they have no idea that they are on the broad pathway to hell. Stop getting enmeshed with such people. Stop engaging with such people. Stop talking to such people. Stop stopping on every so-called Christian post and reading the comments and thinking that that's a bunch of Christians arguing back and forth about righteous. That's a bunch of Jezebels, harlots, Delilahs, and whatever the male version of that, on their merry way to an appointment with their father, the devil. And you need to come out of their midst and be separate. Okay. So the start of America's war years, America's basically, God is saying, going to be fighting for her life in every single conceivable arena. She's going to be fighting for her life in the economy. She's going to be fighting for her life in terms of the financials of the country. Okay, the debt sheet, the debt balance sheet. I recently read that they're trying to open it up again to have room for about 26 more trillion dollar debt. In other words, inflate the balloon ceiling as if this country is not in debt until the end of the world times 3 already. So financial war, economic war, Yah is saying global war. That is definitely speaking about the fact that America seems to be at war with everyone, fighting with everyone, small nations, large nations, involving itself in every single conversation on earth. And I always used to say in the old prophecies during the America series, excuse me, please, I was saying that America will spread herself too thin, and that is going to be one of the signs that she is ripe for destruction. When you think that you are the final boss on everybody's business, you have an opinion on every single global happening. The American voice must be heard in the Samoan Straits. The American voice has to be heard in the Black Sea. America has to weigh in on the Russia-Ukraine war. America has to say something about the fact that the BRICS nations are coming up with alternate plans and an entire alternate economic universe pointed specifically at icing America and most Western powers out. America has to say something about the rebuilding of South African land and whatever. America feels that if she does not speak on everything, including when the sun rises and sets, then the global order is not okay. But God has already said that he will silence the American voice. He will expose America. You will hear that in this prophecy. And the end result is going to be ridicule, rejection, and outright hatred. If you are an American and you think that the end of your life or even the next 5 years is still going to see you met with a smile internationally, that's not going to happen. It's going to be ridicule, rejection, and outright hatred. And what will happen is that when we are outright hated, you can then say, yes, but we're still the greatest, which is just the usual tone deafness. It's already happening, and people are saying, well, we don't care what this country thinks about us. They're just jealous because they don't have the electricity that we have. Well, you're going to sit in the dark, because I've been saying here that the grid is going to be not only going down, it's going to keep going down, keep crashing. We're going to be sitting for days at a time without heat, without water, without lights, without any kind of medical assistance. We're not going to have EMS services. They're not going to come, because things are going to happen that will completely destroy the roads. And you that have suffered a natural disaster where the roads toward you are destroyed, it's going to be neighbor helping neighbor, or neighbor robbing neighbor, or neighbor at gunpoint taking your fresh water because nobody has come into the neighborhood for 3 days to help, and now we're all out of fresh water. There's no water, and we know Marty stored water, and they're going to come and rob Marty, because that's just Marty's unfortunate luck. And if he tries to fight back, Phil might shoot him, because that's how it's going to be in the future. So all the things that people are saying, they're not lending themselves to humility. Rejection, ridicule, and outright hatred is where America is going to get. The American voice is going to be silenced. The American voice is going to be disrespected. The South African president has made his feelings known, and South Africa is now trending, even though naturally it would be a nation that is a very big nation in its corner of the world. But when you bring it in among the big dogs, the Western nations have traditionally held sway over the world. But now people are looking at the South African president and lifting him up the same way they're lifting up President Zelensky of Ukraine, who came here and was embarrassed in America and then went to the EU and was embraced. America's actions will backfire. Things that she has always done will backfire, and it will lead to rejection. It will lead to ridicule. America will become a laughingstock. It already is starting to get there, and it's going to end in outright hatred. So, if hearing that is not teaching Americans to adjust their behavior, so that when it's time to get on ships, when it's time to get on boats, when it's time to get on planes, when it's time to jump into your Buick and drive across to Mexico, you have cultivated individually, personally, for yourself, a personality that will, even if people are initially angry, your personality will be able to win friends to you. Your humility, your humbleness, your non-complainingness. Americans go outside and they think that America is outside. What are you thinking when you travel? What makes you think that the world is a replica of here, or that it has to be, that it has to offer the same amenities, the same convenience, or even the same snacks? What do you think travel is all about if it is not different experiences apart from your experience when you're at home? So, global war, America being the center of attention in a very negative way, attracting negative responses to herself. Spiritual war. This is definitely going to amp up in this country. God is going to expose the false pastors. God is going to expose the false prophets. There's going to be so many kinds of busts and arrests, and all the dirt of the church, I've been saying here for quite some years, is going to come spilling out, and with it, the anger of the people justifiably against the church. The church is never going to hold its leaders accountable because the church loves the pigs who teach them. The church is used to the pig slop from the pigs. And so when the pigs run into difficulty and when the wolves run into exposure, the church's first and second and third and 55th response is to either act shocked, but then say, I will not cast a stone, which is a very useless point of view, because in the Bible, they would definitely cast a stone, because the directive from God was never entertain the evil in your midst. But then that's part of a complacent global church. You think that you are godly when you refuse to condemn sin, even though all the people who are godly with books named after them in the Bible always condemned sin, always called it out, always isolated it, and extracted it surgically from the midst. But then the people now think that they're better than the people in the Bible, which makes no sense because it's not even a close competition at all. So spiritual war, because the church does not clean itself up, because the church will not hold itself accountable or the leaders accountable, God is going to do it. And there's going to be a great separation of people when they see what Christians are about, what Christianity is really about, what kind of filth lies under the cassocks and the robes and everything. And it's going to cause a large clash here in the United States, as well as between spiritual people themselves. War in the press, war in Capitol Hill. Basically, God is saying next year we're going to really be seeing some big headlines flying. And we've already started to see something like that with some app called Signal. Things getting leaked, private chats getting leaked, like the planned Yemen attack in the Signal chat with big heavy hitters in the Republican government. But God is basically saying that the press is going to be a battlefield and blood will be leaking from the ruling party because of warring with the Democrats, but also war within the ranks themselves. God is saying that things that are going to be happening in behind closed doors, like this place that they call the Situation Room, the War Room, places where heated discussions of are we going to make war against this country, and what should we do here, Mr. President, and what should we do there, Mr. Secretary of State, and things like that. Yah says that heated exchanges, machete style. This basically means situations where people's words are basically chopping each other up are going to start coming out, and they're going to make it into the press, and the press itself is going to be warring against the administration. Whether you know it or not, the American press has been greatly muzzled since this new administration came in. He's basically changed the press pool to where it's no longer where anyone can apply and get a press pass as long as you're approved, and then you can come in and ask questions. It's now a more carefully curated collection of people who are almost like friends of the state. So influencers who will make positive MAGA content, press people who will ask softball questions, that kind of thing. It's been done, and yet people will still insist that the Constitution is alive and well, and that the freedom of the press is still well preserved, and also the freedom of speech is well preserved. And those two situations are just not true. And so Yah is saying that the greatest country in the world is going to come apart at the seams. And this is a continuing theme for as long as I've been here. A war of words, a battle of wills. This can mean anything from staffers arguing and staffers trying to sabotage each other in the halls of power, all the way up to big personalities like the president and maybe his right hand, Elon Musk, clashing, that kind of thing. War of words, battle of wills. battles. Yah say, watch them go at it. They're going to go at it and they're going to clash next year until blood flows. And he says the dueling, the fighting, is going to take more than one head with it. And he says that it's people who have been long standing in government. So old and familiar faces are going to be losing what he says is almost like a legacy seat. People have been elected to certain positions and certain seats for so long that it's almost as if they're planning to die in that position. And God said, no, heads are going to roll from these legacy seats. And it will also become a war of obituaries as certain careers get buried for good. Thus says the Lord, I am coming to make America the greatest battlefield on earth. I'm coming to make America the greatest battlefield on earth. A grim, grim prognosis for the patient celestial. Grim. I don't see any coming back from this. I, as the master surgeon, am pronouncing these wounds as too deep to heal. They say their banks are too big to fail. Well, I say America's wounds are too deep to heal. Sepsis and disease cover them, from gonorrhea to syphilis, from HIV to pneumonia, to every sickness under the sun, and new ones nobody ever heard of. It's going to be an infected nation, and its wounds are too deep to heal. I, the master surgeon, say so. This is the word of the Lord. So Yah is saying that America is going to be far from the greatest country in the world. It's going to become the greatest battlefield in the world. Everybody's already watching this country now. America is suddenly the biggest sitcom on earth as people watch here to see so many changes, even as Americans themselves within the country are watching to see so many startling and abrupt changes to what is supposed to be a well-functioning, well-oiled, democratic republic. None of that is happening. There's so many running battles between the executive office and the courts are losing. It appears to America that the courts are winning simply because when the executive makes a move, the courts check it. But then within a very short period of time, the courts seem to be rolling back the checks and allowing the executive to proceed with every single move that they've started with. So whether it was the birthright citizenship, whether it was the Social Security and the Medicaid, whether it was the issue of what exactly constitutes lawful status in the United States, every single thing, or whether it was the termination of federal employees, and that was checked and then that was allowed to go through. The judiciary seems to only be functioning as brakes pumped momentarily before easing off and allowing the gas to go. And now the very loud noise in America, as I watch with interest, is constitutionality. This has become the question, but I was talking about these things in 2020 and 2021 when I said that this American Constitution that is treated like a second Jesus, the way people venerate it, the Constitution is going to be like toilet tissue used on the bum of a very active baby that has been feeding all day and is now ready to let loose. The Constitution is going to be nothing but a soiled wet wipe. Everything that is protected in there, Yah says that the people of America are going to watch those rights taken away. This is going to be a nation absolutely disenfranchised until the people become so worked up, and that is where civil war is going to come from. I've been saying it for quite some years. So as people sit and watch this check and checkmate and then ease off, they keep thinking that they are watching erroneously the ordinary checks and balances that they've trusted in all their lives. That's why people keep getting upset, because they're watching and it seems like the check is balancing and then all of a sudden back to imbalance, and they're getting more and more frustrating because they're thinking that is not how it's supposed to go. That is exactly how heaven says it's supposed to go. Because what happens when your brakes are working fine, you pump them and the speed is slowed down, but then you proceed again. That's what happens with brakes. As you're driving, you pump them to moderate speed, and then you take them off and you apply gas. And that is exactly what is happening, because that is America's punishment. Yah has never said that we're going to go into a happy retirement with a well-functioning state. We are going into a beast state where all the laws are going to be changed. The laws that people grew up with. Some people have died under those old laws. All these laws are going to be repealed and replaced by unbelievably shocking new laws. And those laws are going to be perfectly legal, because the original legality that runs America will be dismantled and ruined. People are howling now, but that is what is taking place. The problem is that most people keep thinking there's going to be a stop to it. There's going to be no stop to it. No matter who comes next, they're going to continue this legacy, because America is going to end as a prison camp for Americans. The sooner you adjust to it, the sooner you adjust your mind to it. Whoever doesn't want to adjust their mind to it, too bad for them. Their minds are going to be adjusted for them by a firing squad. Whoever wants to adjust their mind now, you adjust your mind, and then you begin to have a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ, and then you have peace. And then you don't need to send me so much email. So, America is going to become a great battlefield, the greatest battlefield on earth. And God says that the prognosis for the patient is grim. Again, God is pointing to this comment of Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, whereby he says that America is a patient that he's healing with all these bold new changes. Oh, when the patient is sick, you need to apply the medicine, says the president. And then the medicine is not pleasant. But then when you take the medicine, then the patient's going to get better. This is the party line. God is telling me right now that they will tell you you're taking the medicine even when $1 is worth 12 cents, 50 cents, 15 cents. They're going to still be telling people, gaslighting them to the heights of the moon, that the useless dollar, the highly inflated dollar, the recessionary dollar that is coming for all of us, that I've been speaking about for years, is still part of the medicine. The medicine is still being applied. And God says that this American patient, this nation, the prognosis is grim, because the wounds of America are too deep to heal. And he uses the word sepsis. Sepsis is when you have a gash, a wound that even if they treat it, unfortunately, the medical team has not treated it properly. And as a result, infection sets in. And once infection sets in and it is untreated long enough, the limb becomes eaten away with sickness. And then it begins to either climb up the leg to claim more of the leg, to claim more of the arm, to claim more of the body part, until the only way to fix it is to cut it out. Sepsis is basically infection, rotting infection. And God says that America's wounds are too deep to heal, and so they're not going to get better. And one of the signs of the fact that we will see that America actually has wounds is very tangibly when America becomes a highly diseased nation. Those of you that like to sleep around, you're going to be covered with everything until you finally die of it. What a shame, what an embarrassment, honestly, to die of sexually transmitted diseases. God is talking about things like HIV here. He's talking about pneumonia. Pneumonia, when untreated, pneumonia can be treated in a civilized nation, a nation that has a very robust medical system. But then when you start to hear about medical care being denied, and when you also start to hear God say that there's new forms of diseases coming out, there may be forms of pneumonia that doctors will not diagnose until it's too far gone, and then you lose your life from something like that. Just a moment, please. I saw something a few weeks ago that was saying that the HIV rate in certain cities is shocking. The city of Houston, and also in Atlanta, and also in New York City, that the HIV rate is absolutely spiraling. And I also saw an educator who was posting anonymously on TikTok saying that parents of people under the age of 18, imagine, this woman was saying that she is an educator and also works as a social worker. And the biggest problem that she and the other workers were starting to battle is not only sex ed awareness. Imagine, with all the pornography they show the kids through Planned Parenthood at the schools, The kids are still poorly educated about sexual education. And then on top of that, she said that the rising diagnosis among the teens, the thousands of teens that she sees every month, was HIV. HIV is the precursor disease, the compromising of your immune system before you develop full-blown AIDS that kills. And so imagine AIDS being mentioned in the teen demographic. And that is because the children in this country are very immoral. They're very highly sexualized. They're running around with men twice their age because the men are offering them trinkets and toys. And also because both young women and young men think that they're very grown and that they're capable of adult sexual relationships, not knowing that, for instance, the rising tide of men who are interested in homosexual relations, but because they have something to lose if they go full gay, they're living as DL men, down low men, and so they're jumping between the female population and the male population and bringing a huge type of cross-pollinated infection that people have not had to deal with en masse before. And so America's going to be sick. God is mentioning gonorrhea. He's mentioning syphilis. He's mentioning HIV. He's mentioning pneumonia. And may I point out that it's going to be highly resistant disease strains. Highly resistant to treatment, resistant to drugs, resistant to, we've got an experimental treatment that we want to offer you. Forget about all that, because it is now time for the killing fields to be open in this country. It's going to be the kind of diseases that will refuse to respond to treatment. Years ago, when I was giving warnings about sexual immorality, I always used to say that people are going to have things that will make them drip and stink, and little children are going to raise their voice very loudly at the crosswalk and say, "Mom, that man is stinking," because little children don't have an appreciation of time or place or shame. God says you're going to face so much shame. The evidence of what you do will be on your face. The evidence of what you do will be coming out of your armpits and from your nether regions. You will not be able to go out in public. You will have weevils. You will have worms. You will have maggots. You will have all kinds of things in your private crevices because of affliction of sexual immorality. So that is just it. And also sicknesses under the sun. God says every sickness that you can think of, you're going to start to see it popping up here in America. So even things that are supposedly taken care of, like polio, like tuberculosis, like dengue fever, like Ebola, and all those things, I've prophesied that those things are going to be visible here in the United States, as well as new diseases. Brand new diseases, Yah says, that nobody's ever heard of. Even COVID-19, I said years back that God said is going to come back and it's going to be worse than ever. And we can expect a second lockdown. And that is from 2022 and 2023. So please be aware of that. America is going to be a highly infected nation with wounds that are so deep, too deep to heal. Thus says the master surgeon, Jesus Christ. This is the word of the Lord. I continue. Your war years are upon you, America. 2026 and 7. 2027, the years of war. War of ethnic cleansing, a war of race in America. Please listen, because these are the words that were coming to me. Who are you to talk to me this way? Bam, bam. Who are you to talk to me, nigger? Blam, bam, and bam. Shots fired, officer. Man down. He got cut down over nothing but the color of his skin. I saw it. We saw it. We was right there, officer. We saw the whole thing and uploaded it to Facebook before the cops could come. Live shootings on social media. People following it. Horrified, electrified, excited, and appalled. Covering their mouths as people shoot each other over nothing more than the melanin content or lack thereof in their skin. So be it. The melting pot shall unmelt. Thus says the Lord. Esau and Jacob, there's never been peace between you. And now since you took me out of the schools and the government buildings, you will see it for real. So I have been talking about race disparity in the United States for quite some years. This always attracts so much attack, as the Lord was revealing to me in 2020 that slavery will come here again as a punishment for the slavery that was carried out on the African Americans and the Native Americans, the kind of subjugation that took place here for hundreds of years as people were taken from their homeland, and also the people here were subjugated. They were disenfranchised, they were robbed, they were systematically eradicated, they were cleansed ethnically. Genocide took place here in the United States, and now it's all been gentrified to the point where people are not actually sorry for anything, and they all say, well, that was the past and we just need to move past it. But here I've been talking about a race war that as America becomes separated, and that as America begins to separate along ideological lines where one person says, I practice the rainbow lifestyle, and the other person says, that's abomination. And one person says, let other people live and love is love. And then the other person says, that's not in the Bible. And then another person says, well, I just think that this race is like this and that, and I just think that that race is this and that, and men and women begin to go at it. Men are like this, and women are like this, and high value men and low value women, and all this, and I hate men and I hate women. I'm retiring from the game. You can already see that kind of content is there. People are very much free to speak their mind ever since cell phones and social media had an uneasy marriage. So I've been speaking of this race war, and God has brought back to it, speaking of 2026 and 2027 as years of heightened tension between, I guess, the major races in America, which would be the white race and the black race. And God is saying, who are you to talk to me this way? So these are the conversations that are going to be heard in public. And he used the word nigger because the word nigger is, it's almost as normal now. I'm not speaking of the colloquialism, which black people use quite freely, nigger. They use it for everything from counting how many people are in a space. Oh, there's about this many, nigga with an A. If you're uncomfortable, go and watch Sesame Street. I don't have time for people pretending like they don't live in this country and they don't know what happens here. If you're an adult and you know the everyday colloquialisms that have even made it onto TV until all foreign people in the world know what I'm saying, then you're just going to have to get over your social niceties, because I'm not here to mollycoddle anyone. So there is a colloquialism that is used in the black community, and then there is the ethnic slur nigger, which I have been saying for years. I have been subjected to it and nobody believed me at the time. But when I posted some evidence on it, then all of a sudden it's Celestial, we're so sorry. But this is just the general approach of certain members of the population who immediately upon coming here and simply seeing my face, that is the approach that they would take to me. And that has been going on for years. And so this word is becoming a very contentious thing in America, because tolerance on both sides of the aisle is already unraveling and spiraling. But now you see the rise of supremacy groups in the United States, and people are becoming brave to have Nazi marches, and all of this is being, I would almost say, promoted, but the right word is emboldened. These kinds of activities are being emboldened by the kind of leadership that is in America. The leadership in America is systematically breaking down and dehumanizing every other type of experience except the white experience. It's being clearly seen in the breaking down of DEI, what can I say, the dismissal of equity programs that have always been here in the United States is being shown in the decentering of monuments. It's being shown in the rise of the use of the Confederate flag, which always triggers a wrong reaction in certain parts of the population. It's being made very clear in the type of policy that ICE is pursuing at the moment. It is very odd, and it would be very remiss to think that the only type of immigrant that is here wrongly in the United States is a brown immigrant, or a Haitian one, or a Dominican one, or something like that, or a Jamaican one, or an African one. There's tons of people here from so-called Western nations that have long come and overstayed their state, and they are not in the kind of visible public danger that people who basically, the phrase is fit the description, are in. So the administration is making no bones about where it's setting its feet. Right now, America has become home to its first set of white refugees, while other people chasing asylum are being told that now their asylum is going to be renewable, for instance, for $1,000 per year. So you're given asylum because you're running away from ethnic cleansing, you're running away from female genital mutilation, you're running away because you're part of a smaller group that maybe a larger political group has been prosecuting in Afghanistan or persecuting or something like that, and now all of a sudden you can stay, but now it's going to be staying for cash. These are some of the changes that are taking place in immigration policy in the United States. I prophesied about this in 2020. I think the prophecy is called The Ways of a King, and for some reason God has still not given me the release to make that word, but you can find it printed on the Master's Voice, and there's a copy of 2 passports on it where I said that sweeping changes to immigration will happen in the United States, and it's going to become a boiling pot of a country. And now here we are in that. And so God is talking about this word that is always socially called the N word. And then there's clips, sound bites, secret recordings, secret video clips, hot mic takes of people who are not of the melanated hue freely using this word in their conversations, in their policy making, showing that this word actually has a very active social life away from the bright lights of the public. Well, all of that is going to come to the forefront, and it's obviously going to be a very hot flashpoint in the United States. So God is talking about people getting into verbal altercations, this word being used, and then violence ensuing, whether it's coming from the one who used it, then following up with shots, or coming from the one who had the word used on them, totally losing it, and then following up with shots, and people being on the scene to capture it all and give the cops a live play-by-play plus video that's going to make it onto social media of basically what is nothing more than racially motivated murder, whether it's coming from one side or the other. That's what God is talking about, people following live shootings and things like that, and the social media people totally unaware of what has been uploaded and already has 1 million views and has been seen even in Poland and seen even in Uruguay. By the time that Facebook is aware, TikTok is aware that there's a live going on with, I guess, another George Floyd, and people are 2 million watching it and screen recording it and then having it. And that's the nature of social media. Live shootings as people watch with different reactions, horrified, electrified, excited, because there are always sickles among us, and also appalled, covering their mouths as they see live shootings taking place over what God is calling nothing more than the melanin content or lack of in a person's skin. And I've been saying here a phrase that God has now said again: the melting pot will unmelt. So America is definitely the global melting pot. You can find every single background, every single ethnicity, every single religion, every single skin color, every single exotic mix of 16 different races in one person, part Polynesian, and my grandfather was also native, and my mother is half black and half Polish and half French and half Guyanese, and then one person has like 16 different mixes inside them. God is saying that the gathering of all these nations, which has always come together, America has really had a harmonious past, despite the fact that there's been a long-standing tension between certain races and things. That America has managed to work together, build together, and truly send out a bright beacon of light. But now God is saying, because scripturally, this is the time for nations to return to their habitations. This is in the Bible, that every man will leave Babylon and return back to his home. Jeremiah talked about it, and it's also in the book of Revelation. Return back to your lands, and everybody's going to abandon Mystery Babylon, because the call prophetically from the voice of God that has already been captured by Prophet John, Apostle John, is come out of her, my people. And so people are going to go back to their home countries. But what God is talking about is a spiritual freezing. For a melting pot to melt, there has to be a spiritual heating. So the warmth of the Lord, the warmth of the Holy Spirit working in America kept the nations, the races, the backgrounds, the ethnicities, the various religions harmonious. But when that heat dies down, because him who restrains is getting ready to restrain no longer, because the time of the fallen angels, the creatures, the aliens, and everything else to come out is now at hand. As the melting pot has no longer the fire of righteousness, the heat of the Holy Spirit flaming up under it, what's going to happen is that the melting pot is going to cool down, and all the various metals and alloys, and yes, even the trash in the midst, are going to separate into their various layers. Look for people to be extremely cliquish, extremely intolerant, and extremely, it's best to be with your own kindish in this nation that is so full of mixed people. And God makes reference here to the old enmity between the twin brothers. This seems to leave people's minds a lot. Esau and Jacob. They are twins. They are not two strangers who met on the street and decided to enter into Rebecca's womb because there was nowhere else to go. They are blood brothers, and they were fighting in the womb. And Yah says there's never been peace between you. And now, since you basically eradicated me, taking me out of the schools, the government buildings, the policies, the laws, and everything else, God says that without his presence, the old enmity will rear its head, and we're going to, as he puts it, see it for real. I continue. You will struggle to put food on the table. This is 2026 God is talking about. A lot of people are struggling to do that now. American food banks have never been so active, but hear the word of the Lord. People are literally going to come to starving point in the years that are coming ahead. You will struggle to put food on the table. You will strive to put food in your mouths. What you afford now won't be close to the same price in time. And you will see what dependence on programs and government funding looks like on a mass scale. Mass scale dependence on food programs, SNAP benefits, government spending cards to be able to afford something to eat. Independent wages will fall to an all-time low, with the government blowing hard that things have never been better. Economic recession setting its teeth in, with the determination of a dog finding meat and deciding to never let it go. Watch that dog sink its teeth into you, America. And so God is here basically talking about financial hardship to the point that it affects something that we all need as a basic food. Nobody can survive without food. Doesn't matter how strong your fasting game is, you will ultimately return to the thing that keeps the body alive. So when a nation reaches the point where food is imperiled, I think the phrase is food insecurity here, but that's just a very whitewashed way to say that people are going hungry and people basically don't know what their next meal is coming from. That's what insecure means. And when you put food in front of it, it basically means I have no idea what I'm going to eat tomorrow. And you can see a lot of young people, even millennials, always making content about I can't afford my groceries, you guys. I'm going hungry. I'm not spending my money on avocado toast and $17 frappuccinos at Starbucks. I'm buying basics, and yet I find myself out of pocket. I'm having to go to my parents' house to get meals and things like that. There's a lot of people, even married people, showing what they can afford in a week. Some people have content making what they call struggle meals because they can't afford the basics. And God is telling us that food will become a major problem. Basically, war on feeding, war on the ability to feed yourself in 2026 and 2027. Striving to put food in the mouth means having to work really hard to eat. The word strive, it automatically puts a picture of a horse that is having to pull a very heavy load against a steep gradient. When a horse is on a flat gradient and the load is light, the horse is not striving. But when you start to see the cords in the neck of your ox, your donkey, or your horse, because of the steepness of the hill and also the heaviness of the load and gravity acting against the animal, that is striving. To strive means you really have to put extra effort. You really have to work hard. And then God is saying, after all that effort, you're still just barely going to be able to put food in your mouth, because what you're spending now, he says, it won't even be close in price with the passage of time. The egg saga is just one example of struggling in America. Who would have thought that $2.99 eggs would sit and settle at $11.99, $12.99, and in some cases $16.99 if you're going to be buying organic eggs. So that is speaking to the weakness of the currency, as well as price surges that are being brought on as the economy reacts to all the different types of bright ideas that are coming from the White House. And God says you will start to see in America what mass dependence on government funding looks like. SNAP benefits are what we have here in New York City, whereby the government releases a certain allowance to people who are at risk and in need, families. You have to meet certain requirements to be able to get SNAP benefits. These benefits, however, were being given freely to all the people who crossed the border. They were being given some kind of EBT card, and then they could go and shop and do things like that. And so Yah is talking about SNAP benefits that have always been their government benefits, but he's also talking about special cards that the government will have to give out as people, the number of people who need government help to eat will increase, and people are going to be needing food banks. People are going to be needing sharing neighbor, helping hands of mercy programs, that kind of thing. Church programs come every week to get food, as the church gets food from wherever it gets it from and then shares with the community. Even some churches, you don't even have to be a part of the church to be able to line up and get food and things like that. And what God is basically saying is that seeing these things is the sign of how economic recession is going to bite its teeth into the United States and refuse to let go, like a dog that has found a juicy steak and refuse to let it go. I continue. It's time for war, Celestial. It's time for war against the greatest. Please bear in mind that God was talking to me and I was writing it down. It's time for war and to see who the ultimate winner will be. Time and circumstance, or the greatest country in the world, the greatest in doings, the greatest in sin, the greatest in compromising everything worthwhile for a little bit of pleasure and sin, the greatest in the works of the flesh that profit nothing, the greatest in lies, deception, and subterfuge. That is all coming out in the press now as people divulge everything they know about the jobs they were asked to do in secret to keep an administration that was faltering in place, falling down, yet making documentaries about being steadfast, steady, and the world leader. Isn't the party grand? Isn't the facade intact? Isn't the glass cracked, America? Can't everybody see through the window now, as I told you? I told you you would be naked and ashamed. I told you you would be booed off stage. I told you nations would get a whiff of your real scent, the stink and rotting meat, and immediately go off you like a woman who doesn't want a man anymore. Didn't I say it? Didn't I tell you your shame would be on top of the mountains for everyone to see it? And once people see what you're really about, they would leave you. And so the war we're talking about here is a war of decay, a war of decline. Yah saying that time and circumstance, so basically just the passage of time. If you take food out of the fridge and you leave it outside long enough, it rots, it spoils. You don't actually need to put a blow dryer on it to make the meat hotter. Take food out of the fridge and you don't cook it, It spoils just by the passage of time. You take food out of the fridge and you do cook it, but then leave the cooked food outside. It still spoils because refrigeration and preservation is how we keep things fresh. So Yah is saying he's watching to see who's going to win the war of time and circumstance, which is a Bible verse in the book of Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs or Ecclesiastes, where it says time and chance happen to them all, which basically means that good can happen to anyone out of nowhere. Good can happen to a rich person and they get even more blessed. Good can happen to a pauper, a broke guy, a homeless guy, an unemployed guy, and all of a sudden in a snap like that, by good happening to him, he's back on his feet. Evil can happen to a righteous person. Evil can happen to an evil person. We understand when evil happens to an evil person, but we don't understand when evil happens to a good person. But the Bible says time and chance happens to them all. So God is saying he's going to see that as the war against America, heavenly war, spiritual war, judgment war, right? Not yet the physical war of bullets and running and shooting. As war prophesied for 2026, 2027 comes against America, Yah says he wants to see who the ultimate winner will be. Is it a situation where America could definitely just keep ending up in mistakes, one bad thing after another, time and chance? Or will it be the greatest country in the world who, as she keeps styling herself, is able to pull herself up by her bootstraps? And we're going through a tough time now, but trust me, we're going to get it fixed. We're going to get it right. We've got the patient on the table and we've already got her in an IV drip. We've diagnosed her. We know exactly what to do. She's going to be better. God is basically saying that time will show whether the greatest country is going to win or lose her war against what he's saying to her. He mocks the greatest in doings. So America is always like, we're the greatest. But then listen to what God says. You're greatest in the sin, greatest in compromising everything worthwhile for a little bit of pleasure and a little bit of sin. There are people throwing their entire family, wife, children, dog away for 5 minutes of pleasure. Wasn't there a man on the internet who was constantly exposing false prophet Celestial? Which Celestial? Where is he now? In the midst of fighting for his affair, swearing that he won't repent. Time and circumstance proves the foundation of everything. A little bit of pleasure, a little bit of sin, a little bit of folding the hands to rest. And then the truth about a thing comes out. So, the greatest in the works of the flesh that profit nothing. There is this habit in America of always justifying sin. I'm not going to stop speaking about this. This thing is going to cause so many people to forfeit their place in heaven. It's going to cost so many people. God is talking about a little bit of pleasure. So he's not saying a life of you have to be an elite and go to the hunting parties, debauchery, and then you get destruction. A little bit literally means leaven. A bit of leaven that will eventually work through the whole lump and make the lump useless to God. There is this habit in this country to justify sin that is very egregious. It happens in every community, black community, white community. The example I'm going to use is of a black woman raised by black parents, black grandparents in the house of God or having proximity to the house of God that should know better. Took herself wearing basically nothing, wearing booty cutter shorts, the shorts that basically have no place anywhere except maybe at the beach or at the back of your house when you're having a personal pool party, and then put a man's jacket over it and then went to a church service and ended up somehow on stage, supposedly praying a prayer that shook the rafters and the nations. And this thing caused such a huge contention. And the shame of it was that the majority of the black female community, people that I have warned here consistently for their wicked wicked propensity to clap for every evil under the sun. Down low, they clap for it. Homosexuality, they clap for it. Come out of the closet, will be an ally, will be an ally, will be an ally. The majority said, don't judge. You don't know her heart. Did you hear how powerful the prayer was? God is still working on her. This thing, it will land so many people outside of the presence of God, because God has said here consistently that he will give you what you support. You will not be able to break Isaiah 5:20 that says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. A lot of these pastors don't actually go into these verses to tell you what they mean. If you are given an excellently prepared steak prepared exactly to your liking, and they place salt and pepper shakers before you, and you shake, and it contains stevia, and the other one contains cane sugar. You shake that on your meat, and then you cut into it and put into your mouth. Sweet mixed with your savory. You will be extremely annoyed, especially since those things will immediately break down because of the heat and oils on your steak, and you now can't get it off. The flavoring is ruined. The hard work is ruined. The dry aging of the steak is ruined. Why? Because of the deception of the ones who placed not salt and pepper in front of you, but stevia, which is an artificial sweetener, and cane sugar, which is the genuine one. Nobody wants those things on a steak, but that is what you do when you come to the practice of disrespecting God, disrespecting the house of God. Whether a woman is black, Latina, or white in this country, every single one of us knows what a church is. There's a time and a place for everything. If you invite a woman to Buckingham Palace, she's not going to go there dressed like Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B. She will be out looking for a Princess Diana set. Why? Because she's observed with the eye and she knows what they wear in the palace. She will want to appear acceptable to them, and therefore she will get herself together accordingly before she enters that space. You call that same woman for a corporate interview, she's not coming out with tassels on her breasts or the uniform from Hooters. For the sake of money and being able to enter corporate rooms, she will know how to attire herself. She'll be on the internet doing Get Ready With Me and showing the internet 15 corporate outfits. Which one do you guys think I should wear? Why? Because she's been called by Merrill Lynch. But when it comes to the house of God, then this is the absolute trash, dumpster fire nonsense that people, black, white, all colors, but I'm speaking to the African American community in the United States. This is what they do. And then this is what they support. And then we'll turn around and open the same hypocritical mouth and say things like, God's still working with her. You don't know her heart. I may not know her heart, but I can automatically tell you what the ending of such a person is. Without repentance, and if you people keep playing with God, your cries will be heard all the way in Kiev. Your cries will be heard all the way in Moscow. And I'm not even going to go into breaking that down. If you're a new person, you will simply have to go back into time and find out what it is. You can ask a question in the comment section. All the older people will tell you what it means to hear the cry of an American woman in Beijing, in Hong Kong, in Kiev, in Moscow. Your cries will be heard there for the things that you support, because you put bitter in the jar of sweet. And when a person is shaking out the expectation of hearing true godliness from you, they're hearing absolute trash and rubbish. Complacency covering for sin. You always are ready to make a case against God for Satan. You that call yourself a child of God and you keep doing that. You see the people in Maverick City compromising themselves. And then when they say they're coming on tour to South Africa, you can't wait to get your face there. The Maverick City people are singing Whitney Houston songs. Naomi Rain is standing on stage and saying, I've just got one more number. Sometimes we're a bit too strict in church. We need to loosen it up. And then she begins to sing, I want to dance with somebody in church. I want to feel the Holy Ghost with somebody. You think that you will take stripper boots and then you will put a church robe over it. And then we who take God seriously, we who honor the house of God, you think that we are going to sit and we are going to tolerate, you don't know her heart. The Bible says that the fruit of the tree can be discerned. You can discern the tree by the fruit on it. And that the good man will bring out good things from the goodly treasure in his heart. The dark man will bring out wicked things from the evil treasure in his heart. Christians have gone way, way left, and they always want to justify themselves when you rebuke and correct them and say things like, you don't know me. I don't need to know you. Your apples and your papayas are in full season. I don't need to have lived next to you, grown up to you, and been your next door neighbor, walking life's foibles and paths with you in order to be able to say, that's a serpent tree, because serpent fruit is hanging full and ripe on that tree. Don't make noise. Don't make noise. When the sword is in the land, when I am no longer on the internet, when my voice is in repose, that means a well-earned and a well-deserved rest from God. When my voice is in repose, and what we call in the Black community, the chickens coming home to roost, when those chickens start roosting, I have always told you here by God, the way you started, you better end with that same strength. You want to justify people who should know better, people in their 30s, coming half naked to church. The cleavage is down to the navel. I don't want to go to that church because they're judging you. They're judging you because you don't know how to act. They're judging you because you don't know how to behave appropriately. They're judging you because you mistakenly think that church is a place where you're not supposed to be judged. But the Bible tells us to judge with righteous judgment. God is always saying that the sin of America, deeply ingrained under almost all the fingernails, is compromise. It is being a sympathizer with sin. It is the automatic DNA response to say, hey, not too much on that sin, not too much. And that's because there's sin in the people saying it. If you are a Christian and your first, second, and third response is to always stand up and say, wait, what's this in aid of? Couldn't we have this conversation in private? Where do you see private conversations happening anywhere in the Bible when it came to sin? Where do you see it happening? When the man said that what is done in secret, it will be shouted from the rooftops. Where do you see mollycoddling of things that will eventually break down the whole society? Do you think it is a gentle thing for God to basically say he's going to flush this nation down the toilet? And then he's kind enough to say, for this and this and this and this, and yet people do not want to go down the checklist and say, how do we fix this? How do we get rid of this? How can we at least, even the steward in the Bible that gave his master's goods away without collecting any money up front. The Bible says that when he heard the master was coming back, he rapidly sent word out and say, come back and at least pay 50. Come back and pay 75%. Because when the master comes back and the master finds that his goods that are worth $100 are gone, but the servant says, master, here is $75. Where do you think the anger will be? If the master came and found that no part of the $100 had been paid, where do you think his anger will be, as opposed to the servant saying, master, I managed to get $75. I can work on getting the rest. Which part of this would you think that the master's rage would be, higher or lower? But when you speak this, then people say it's too hard. It's too judgmental. How can the mindset be that it is too judgmental when this nation is judged. Make it make sense. How can identifying what God is calling a little bit of pleasure, in some cases, it's a little bit I want to trend on the internet. It's a little bit I want social media likes. It's a little bit I want to paint myself Virgin Mary. And so I'm going to make the video and say, you know what? I know that I've heard about all the trafficking and all the rape and all the baby oil, but I just think that we don't know Jesus's heart. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Before he left, he somehow made provision for the whole book to be given to us. Before he ever came into the book, when he's just appearing as a type, sometimes as the angel of the Lord. And then after he left, the book still continues. So yes, we do know his heart. It's been translated into every language. It is erroneous. It is a lie to claim we don't know his heart. What we don't know is how dark and how cavernous and how wicked is your heart. Who put sweet for bitter and bitter for sweet and justify evil every time you wake up and open your demonic eyes and open your satanic mouth? What we don't know is how far you're willing to go to defraud God and lie on God and create a second gospel with you as the head, with you as the demonic priest, feeding flesh from your satanic altar of, but we don't know. That's what we don't know. We don't know how many of you there are, and we don't know how far you're willing to go to get everybody punished. And this is why I tell people, seek wisdom, pursue God, don't engage. Don't engage with these people, because what they have is like leprosy. Leprosy is a pernicious rot. It's already spreading all over them, over their face, into their scalp, under their hair. It's all on them inside their clothes. Don't engage with them, because what they have is catching. And God will judge it. He will judge them to their skin for this. As a Christian, think about what you support. Think before you open your mouth. Every idle word. You may think it's just a comment that when your socials come up on Judgment Day, and that tidbit here, that tidbit there, that I had to weigh in here, I had to weigh in there, I'm just going to drop a mic here, and then I come back, 300 likes, 1,000 likes, 140,000 likes. It's not going to be worth a thing when your soul is on the line. As a Christian, as a modern believer, you have a bounden duty to work on your brain until your brain aligns with Jesus's brain. You're not on earth for your brain to line up with the belief systems of the day. You're not on earth for your brain to line up with black girl magic. You're not on earth for your brain to line up with, this is the kind of naked prom dresses that we're wearing at the Mexican, I don't want to say the word. It starts with Q. I think it quinceanera. Forgive me if it's wrong. The Mexican Sweet 16 party. The children are starting to wear next to nothing and their mothers are standing there. You're not on earth to profess Christ and then you look and are shaped like a demon from the pits of hell. That's not what you're here for. Romans 12 is telling us that our minds should conform to Christ's likeness. Romans 12 is also telling us that our bodies are meant to be living sacrifices to God. Our work is cut out for us, set out for us. It's a mold. Woe unto you when you die and you don't fit that mold. And you think fitting the mold of the world and standing up for iniquity everywhere simply because iniquity matches your skin color, you are going to regret it so hard, and there will be absolutely no avenue of escape for you, because God will simply ask you, did anyone tell you? Did you ever even see one video When you say logically and truthfully, no, I never saw a video, he's going to say, okay, let's go to Romans chapter 1. You're going to say, what's there, God? And he's going to say, oh no, in Romans chapter 1, I painted the picture of how everything that mankind needs to know about me, what I find to be important, how I want human beings to be, how I want human beings to think. He said, oh no, let's go to Romans 1, because Romans 1 paints for you the picture of how darkness enters the mind and how everything you need to know about me, even if the Bible did not exist, you could pick it up from looking at the creation. You can know everything you need to know about the Holy Spirit, about what pleases Jesus Christ, simply from observing the creation. In the creation, if there's a mommy bear and a daddy bear, that means that you should never see two men in a gay bathroom doing gay things. You don't see that outside. In creation, if you can see that even a giraffe can remember to lick its baby, a horse can remember, an elephant can remember to lick placenta off its baby, it means stop having children that you can't look after. Stop neglecting these children. Stop listing these children on Instagram and having people come over to rape them. You will burn in hell forever and a day. If there was no celestial and if there was no Bible, God still says that the creation testifies to who he is and how he wants things done. And I've never seen in creation or in the Bible the fact that you should go to church with booty shorts on and then justify it by saying, but I prayed the house down. Stop playing with God. Stop playing with God. So, God says that America is the greatest in compromising everything that is worthwhile for just a little bit of pleasure and sin. Your 6 years of marriage, even your 2 years of marriage and the baby on the way, you will compromise that for some thirst trap, some loose woman of loose morals that you saw somewhere. Your husband does everything for you. Your husband takes care of you. And then you will be in the group chat saying he's this and he's that. And I made a mistake. I married low. That's the thing with people. They apprise themselves so high that they literally feel there's no limit to their ability to be able to get someone better. Married people act like single people. They act like they're just one step away from their twin flame. You're married to someone, you've taken vows before their family, your family, the church, the community, the eyes of God, and yet you're always one step away from your true destiny. And then you expect your marriage to be healthy when your heart is in the streets. The greatest, Yah says, in compromising everything. Do you know what it is to put all that you have on the line? Your financial security, your 401k, the ability to come home and see your little boy running up to your legs when you come off the construction site, just because you want to be sleeping with the lady who sells tacos at the construction site, because the construction site is it's 3 hours away from home and you feel your wife is never going to know. You think God isn't able to bring justice to you because there's a 3-hour gap between where you sleep and where you cheat. Okay. All right. The greatest to do works of the flesh that profit nothing. Works of the flesh that profit nothing. Imagine spending your life doing stuff and then you die and God weighs your entire life and tells you, well, the value of all that you are is nothing. I created you with value. The soul that I put within you, the spirit that I put within you immediately has value. What you managed to do, dear person, is devalue yourself and the time spent on earth until by the time you left the earth, your worth, which started at matchless, because Jesus Christ died for you. First of all, you never wanted the Jesus. Then you did this. So basically you subtracted yourself into the underworld. And that is where I'm going to put you. Then you start crying. Why are you crying? Crying for what? What are you doing with the time that you have here on earth? What is the tears on Judgment Day for? What do you think the time here on non-Judgment Day is for? The next thing God is talking about here is the lies, deception, and the subterfuge that is leaking out in the press now concerning the Biden administration, where people start coming out and saying, yes, he was always decrepit. It was my job to cover it up. Oh no, he was always incoherent. It was our job to never ask any hard questions in the press. So all this is coming out now, which proves that basically exactly what was said years before, that this man was sick, that there was an entire network joined to prop him up. So it has to come out in the press now. And then all of a sudden it's oh, okay, but God already said it. Subterfuge is saying deception, lies, coming out when people bring out what they were asked to do in secret to keep an administration that was always faltering firmly in place. So basically, win the power on deceptive practices. Putting a sick man there, and then the fight was always to hide the sickness long enough so that the other team would not smell blood in the water. Yah says America is falling down, but busy making documentaries about being steady, steadfast, and a world leader. It's so telling. I happened to come across a man justifying the supremacy of the American trade, American economic structure, just 1 week after the markets took the most epic tumble that any of us have ever seen. I mean, the entire thing across the TV screen was red. I took pictures of it, not even understanding. Just knowing this is the Lord's prophecy. Everything was red, not even orange or anything. The whole thing, all the global markets across the Nikkei, just downward arrow, red, red, red. Experts saying and talking about things that extremely hard for me to process, not able to follow. That's not my area. My area is words. But just knowing this is God, this is what God said. A week later, a fully funded documentary on the internet with some guy saying, although China has this and that, America has this and that. More than 1 million views. Why? Because everybody needed a breather. Everybody needed a movie to believe in. Because how can we be in recession? How can we be crashing? No, China has to be worse. China is going to be feeding everyone. So it's a good thing that we like Chinese food here. China's going to be feeding everybody, clothing everybody if they feel like it. I looked at the thing. I said, Lord, we will never stop. Fully funded documentary, edited with the excellence of a Hollywood movie, with a man sitting there and simply saying things that are not true. 1 million views. He dropped the thing. It's just a few hours. It hasn't reached 24 hours yet. Although China is like this and that, America has traditionally been the one that is this and that. And I said, and they will believe it. They will 100% believe it because nobody loves to be gaslit like a desperate person. A desperate person who can see things going one way, but needs something to believe in. The Bible says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9, 10, and 11, that unrighteous people who do not love the truth will die because of how much they love lies. Literally die. The word used there is perish. Perish is not a death whereby you get to die in bed with your family gathered around you. Perish is basically driving your motorbike and getting clipped on the highway, skidding across all the flesh on the other side of you, getting eaten up by the asphalt. And then at the end of it, you still hit the divider wall on the highway and burst into flames. Eaten up, what's left of you, by gasoline. That is perish. Perish is an agonizing end. Imagine the Bible says that simply for loving lies, the end is to perish. And on top of that, God presiding over the whole thing. What does it say? He will send the delusion that eats you up in the end. Heading for a great recession. Heading for a great depression. 2 million views. China's broke. America's doing great. 1 week between the crash and that thing came out. I said, most excellent in doings are we. Isn't the facade intact? This is sarcasm. No, it's not. Isn't the party grand? Sarcasm. No, it's not. Christians think that God can't be sarcastic, and yet I wonder where you think we get it from, since we are made in his image. Isn't the glass cracked, America, and can't everybody now see you through the window? As I told you, now there's the reality. Mirror, mirror on the wall, show me the real America. Now the world is watching us, the center stage. It's not good. Now the world can see. Now even the tiny thread of prophecy where I used to say in 2019, you will see people mocking, judging, and cussing America out. That's what you can see in the comment section. Sometimes I just take screenshots and scroll and scroll and scroll. I have hundreds of screenshots. Under all topics, it doesn't matter what the topic is, as long as it's about America, you will see everybody from Japan, anybody who can type English. Some people will even cuss America in German, and then when you click translate, you will see that it's a disparaging comment. They can't speak English, they don't know what English is, they will write in their own language, but YouTube will say view translation, and then they will translate the comment for you. And you can see that it's right on par with the rest of the mockery that's being written in English. I told you you'll be naked and ashamed. I told you that you would be booed off stage. I told you that once the nations get a whiff of your real scent, which is stinking and rotting meat, they will go off you like a woman who doesn't want a man anymore. The old phrase in the old prophecies was simply the nations will fall out of love with America. And I would say we're definitely there now. Word of the Lord fulfilled. Didn't I tell you that your shame would be on top of the very mountains for everyone to see it? And once people see what you're really about, they would leave you. I continue with the prophecy of the Lord. The EU is leaving, and so is everyone at the receiving end of your suffering. Countries are seeing what you're really about and rejecting, putting you first in preference as they've always done. Rejecting the money, rejecting the lifestyle, rejecting the rhetoric, rejecting the ideas and leadership that come from America. Unpopular America, castigated by the smallest as they make their way down from the Queen's pedestal where they once regularly went to worship. Time is up, America. Time is far spent. It's downward from here all the way with an escort of fallen angels. The things you let in your midst are now surely on the right track to steer you into a wall. You will never escape them. They are your companions for life until the time of your prophesied destruction. So the Lord referencing the EU divorcing America, we've already been seeing that almost from the beginning of the administration, as the administration came out the gates hard with commentary, with disparaging comments, with J.D. Vance going over there and basically cussing the people out over their fine china and their toast and crumpets at the recent EU conference that they invited him to. And basically, Europe is having a kind of renaissance that can basically be termed Europe for the Europeans, and let us get over dependence on the United States. They're having a lot of collaborative conferences and meetings and being very vocal. These people are doing what is called clapping back in the press, poking fun at America's mistakes and things like that, and basically keeping a very hard line to say that they're not vassals of the U.S., they're not servants of the U.S., and so people are basically what I would call making a plan that doesn't include America, working on collaboration that doesn't include America, working on trade deals that doesn't include America, trying to see, can we strengthen money here? Can we strengthen collaboration here? Because who wants to depend on a nation that suddenly will flip the switch on the entire world and tell the entire world, you're all wrong and we're right and we're going to do things this way. And if you don't come on board, for instance, with the the tariffs, we're going to give you a window. And if that window is not there, we're putting tariffs in place unilaterally anyway. And if you buck up, there will be consequences for that. And so God says everybody who's basically been at the receiving end of American suffering, they're now starting to reject the United States, and she will no longer get the preference that the nations have always afforded her. So people enjoy the preference that comes from other nations without actually centralizing and understanding that the only reason America has preference is because other nations give it to her. It's like there's a door there and everybody's walking towards the door. And as we all converge on the door, other people graciously step aside to let one person go first. The person hasn't earned the right to go first. The door is not marked, I will only admit that one first. It's an equal opportunity door, but other nations have graciously afforded the United States, because of their admiration, because of their previous love for her, have afforded America pride of place, have afforded America first place. And also America has punched enough countries in their eye to make other people who like having non-black eyes let her go first, because she's known to get belligerent. She's known to get bomby if you tussle with her for first place. So there's also that aspect. But now Yah says that the preference is being taken away. Other nations are now realizing that they have the right to say no. Other nations are now realizing that they can turn to other hegemons, other people who are also big, other blocks of countries, and say, we want to deal with you. We're now interested in hearing what you have to say. So the US dollar being rejected, the American lifestyle being rejected, the rhetoric, basically the talk from Washington, D.C. being ignored, rejecting ideas, and definitely rejecting the leadership that comes from America. God says, America, unpopular America, now being castigated. To be castigated is to be spoken very sharply of, rebuked. And God says it's happening by the smallest nations. As you can see, the South African president was very hot recently, but he's not the only one that has been talking and making his feelings known. And God says they're making their way down from the Queen's pedestal. And when he was saying that, what I saw is like a kind of monument high on a hill, but then the nations were like, and they were walking down the hill. The other nations, other countries, the place where they traditionally go to worship Queen America, okay, let's say a huge monument, let's say the Statue of Liberty standing up there on up a hill, the nations were like, they were doing that wave of boredom, and they were turning away, and they were starting to walk down the hill. And God said they're abandoning the altar that they usually go to worship the Queen. And time is up, time is far spent. And then God says, America, your time is up, and it's downward from here all the way now with your escort of fallen angels. I started talking about these aspects in 2020, 2021. I'm not going to go into it. I already said that it was a very difficult time to come and sit on the internet and start talking to people about fallen angels to a church that largely knew nothing about it. This was 6 years ago. Please understand now that the knowledge is a lot more common, but at the time people were refusing that otherworldly beings could exist. How can you sit on the internet as a Christian and talk about aliens? Because aliens are snatching people, and they will continue snatching people. They're part of the creation that goes under Satan. They fall under all the power of the enemy. This is Luke 10 and 19. I've been asking this question for 6 years. Why are Christians so sure that there's nothing else? What makes you think that the only evil is a witch in your neighborhood? An occultist, or someone who wants to sacrifice you in your family lineage for money? Who says that that's the only evil on earth? There's evil that's in the sea. There's evil that's in the sky. There's evil that's in parallel dimensions. There's evil that's in the forest. There's evil in all the places that the Native Americans always tell people not to go, and then they go there and they never come back. And I said they will always mail your shoes as a Netherlands explorer. When the locals tell you we don't go into that forest and you go there, then that's it. They will mail your hiking shoes and your notebook to your wife. That'll be all she gets back, because you didn't want to listen. 2021, the Lord kept saying to me, tell them they need to know. Tell them they need to know. Tell them that the Wendigo will take their children. Now everywhere there's a Wendigo testimony. There's actually a very excellent testimony. I don't usually recommend things, but this one, I'm going to put it either in the comment section here, or I'm going to make a separate note for it and post it. It's 3 hours long, and the time goes by effortlessly as this man shares his experience of seeing an actual werewolf. I've been speaking about the fact that the time is coming that the demons will have their bodies. People are looking at me. What do you mean? Those who know better, demons are disembodied spirits of the giants. Yes, but they once had bodies, and the time is going to come where there's going to be enough. I won't call it magic. I will simply call it something. Just imagine that the air becomes more and more thick and tangible. The seasons will change. The dimensions will smash together. I've been saying it for a long time, that the dimension where the fallen live and the dimension where we live, they are simply opposite sides of a wall. They're going to mash. They're going to smash. That is what the Hadron Collider is for. Excuse me, please. It's going to completely change the feel of the world that we live in. And when there is enough thickness, Lord, reality, there will simply be more reality than there is now. When there is enough reality in the world, demons will burst back into physical form. They will be able to have a body. And a thing that maybe could come into the room and attack a man, attack a woman, try to sexually molest them. And you say, I felt that pressure. I felt that pressure on my chest, and I was trying to say, Jesus. This time the body will be there. So keep sinning, and that will be happening. When America is going towards her final end, God says that her companion who will stay with her until the end is these fallen ones, fallen angels, demons, devils, aliens, all the creatures, mermaids. Where are the reaction video people now? Now that more and more people are talking about cryptids. But when I was saying that even the thing that freezes you, that will freeze your heart. You think that America is just making Frozen because they want money. Every single thing that they put on the TV before you, even in cartoon form, it's nothing but disclosure. It's never for money. America is the nation, as far as I know, that made The Little Mermaid 25 to 30 years ago, and then has made Luca, the brand new mermaid, displaying something that Yah showed me, which is that in the sea, a fish, on the earth, a person. The water is the environment that makes the change. But when I'm sitting here and I'm reading out a 1.5 hour, 2 hour prophecy with God talking about mermaids, sirens, what they will do, then the clips are cut everywhere. My mental health is questioned and the abuse. And yet God is saying, companions until the end. So dealing with financial difficulty, dealing with spiritual difficulty, dealing with war, dealing with mental illness, dealing with a declining government, and then also dealing with demons. You're welcome. The prophecy for the fallen and the fact that they operate in the background setting policy for most nations, but definitely this nation is called, there's two of them. The first is called the fallen ones will return. The second one is the fallen ones will rule. I think those prophecies are from early 2022. If you're interested in looking for those, Yah says that America will basically never escape these creatures, these demons, these devils, the fallen ones. And that is because America has made deals with them. America has made deals with Satan in all his visible forms. I prophesied about aliens in 2021, and then at the end of 2024, the US government went full throttle and started confessing to UAPs, which unidentified, I don't know what that actually stands for. What I know them as is UFOs, but they've changed the term as if to say it's a brand new term and it's a brand new time that we're confessing to. They have known about these things since the 1920s and the 1930s. They have been receiving communications from them, receiving weapons from them, receiving technology from them, interacting with them, studying with them, and just basically walking with these creatures. And what Yah has said is that the creatures now want to come out. The creatures want to be seen. The creatures want to fulfill Daniel chapter 2 and 43, which says, and they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. The creatures at least read their Bible, and they know when the time has come. And the U.S. government, Yah says, it's not going to be able to repress things like aliens and the fallen from coming out. So the best that they can do is this soft launch disclosure. And years back, I described what the soft launch disclosure will be like, and you can see it now in the press. Yah said that they're going to sit and act like it's brand new breaking news, especially the news reporters who are extremely fake. They're going to be like, so you're telling us for the first time? Yes, it's all lies, because they've known about it all this time. News people included. The news people are colluding with the leadership. Go ahead and call it conspiracy, but in America, the time frame now between conspiracy and it being on the news is about 6 months. I'm able to wait it out. He said that they would pretend. And the reason that they pretend, both the government, the so-called whistleblower, the whistleblower is working for the government. The whistleblower is a crisis actor. He has to come out and act like he's broken away from the government. He has to come out and act like he's so distressed in his spirit because he's a man of morality who hasn't been drawing a salary from the government for apparently 15 or 20 years. Whoever these various whistleblowers are, they have to act as if they're people whose moral conscience has become so burdened down that they now have to come to an interview that's going to get 3 million views and then tell the public, we've seen them. They fly, they swim, they send out signals through the water like dolphins, whatever. And all that is soft launching us to the fact that the final society in this country, it was going to go through a very creepy utopia period. And the utopia period, they're going to bring out all these creatures and they're going to tell us they're empaths. They feel as we do. They cry as we do. And then the green one with 16 eyes will start crying on cue to show that it's not about 16 eyes. It's about the fact that I have tears like you do. And the mass psychosis of the American population is that the majority, because people adjust very quickly to what is new. People adjust super quickly. Let me tell you something. You who are a true Christian, and I'm only talking to people, whether you're saved or unsaved and you've made it this far in the video, if you truly want to be found to be acceptable to God, there's no other way to be acceptable to God but to make sure that your heart is in tune with what his heart is in tune with. If God's heart is singing a high F and you start singing a low G, just get out of the way and get out of the Christianity because you're after yourself. You strive for money, you strive for sex, you strive for acceptance at your job, you strive to be the cute influencer on the internet. But to strive for Jesus, why? Why? He loves me as I am. Why? Jesus is the highest thing to strive for. He's the highest to pursue. He's the highest to love. He's the higher to desire. He's called the desire of all nations. Do you think that this is a typo in the Bible? No. It's because when he appears, whoever does not have a living relationship with him, I don't care how tough you are, I don't care what you have achieved in life. The Bible says at his appearing, every eye will see him. And it doesn't say, and the nations will jubilate. It says, and the nations will mourn, grieve, lament to see him who they pierced. So it's not just about the fact that Israel killed the Savior. It says the nations. That means we all will feel something go through us that we pierced him. And what we pierced him with is sin. Those nails going to his hands were just typology. It was the methodology by which physical life was taken out of our Messiah. What we pierced him with then and continue to pierce him with now is sin, the love for sin, the justification for sin. Is it really sin? Yes, it is. Stop asking foolish questions because you have a conscience inside by which you know what right and wrong is, because his laws are written on the heart of everybody except raccoons. God is in a high G, you're in a high G. He's in a middle tone C. You're finding your way down from the high G to the middle tone C. You're seeking by the Spirit to know what his heart is, what his will is. And only the true children of God are going to be constantly tuning the guitar of their soul and their spirit to find out what melody he's playing today. Everybody else is going to be wandering after the beast, wandering after the Antichrist, going to the Meet a Hybrid Museum. That's what that's what the majority of people in America and everywhere else, but especially in this decrepit dumpster of an adjustment bureau, is going to be doing. The dinosaurs have been made back. I'm going to that museum. I'm going for research purposes. I need to see this with my own eyes. Anywhere Satan is playing a concert in this nation, the majority of the people are going to tune in because that's the frequency that's inside them. They do not have the song of Jesus Christ in their hearts, and they never will. And I say that on good authority, because if Americans could find God's song, there's absolutely no way that Revelation 18 would be in the Bible. It would go Revelation 17, Revelation 19. 18, the destruction of Mystery Babylon, would never be in there. This is a nation of people who cannot tune into the song of Christ. So let the aliens come out. Let the aliens come and tell people we're killing the planet. All the environmentalists and their supporters are going to be, yes, you see, we need to change. Let the aliens come back and say there is a higher vibration. All the vibrationists, every single person who loves to tune chakras will be there. Let them come out and say, there are better ways to have sex. You don't need to touch each other. There's actually a cord in your hand. And why won't they know if there's a cord in our hand? I'm going to say everything that is coming to me at this time. Why would there not be a cord in our hand? If there is a cord in our hand, fallen angels know how to find it because they are the ones who corrupted all of mankind in the beginning by teaching them the cutting of roots, of berries, and everything else that Enoch said they taught us. Everything that they know, everything you find in Chinese societies and in Indian societies where they can actually float, where they can quiet their heartbeat until it goes silent, none of that is because they're actual gurus. Those practices were introduced into the midst of society by the fallen. They are the one who brought what is called arcane knowledge. Arcane knowledge doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad. Arcane means hidden. It means kept away from us. Adam and Eve didn't have all that knowledge. God told them, here's some animals. That's water. That's grass. That's what the animals eat. Give it to them, hang out in the shade, love one another. I walk with you in the cool of the garden. That's what they knew. It wasn't necessary for them to know that there's diamonds and cobalt and all that other stuff under the earth. Now that Apple knows about it, that's why she's got children in those mines, in the cobalt mines. Mining for her for like negative 22 cents a day, exploiting the souls of people in Vietnam and all over the world. The things we were taught corrupted us. So if there is a cord in the hand by which humanity can simply put their palms together and express sex, this new batch of fallen angels will surely tell us, and there will be a line out the door to activate the palm sex, because that's who people in this country are. Minus a very small contingent. The very small contingent who continue to have their guitar, their banjo, their fiddle, their little ukulele with one string, trying to find God's song. The rest for fire, for flames, barbecue, lake of fire, hellfire. You don't like it? Go and watch Sesame Street. So, Yah says, I continue. Economic war, just recapping. Economic war, a war of words, a war in the press, a war in the White House itself. God is basically telling me now that the American government is going to end up almost doing something that looks like eating itself. Devouring, like violent opposition within the ranks. Whatever shape that will take. Looking at next year, And the last part of the prophecy is this. Oh, let me continue. Economic war. I've talked about it, but America is going to go into economic hardships. And then it says war of words. We've discussed race war. We've discussed male versus female, gender war. We've discussed war of adults against children. Adults are going to be abusing children so much in this country. Please stop leaving your children with random people. And those random people include your sister, your brother, your girlfriend. Stop leaving your children with people that you will come back and find your child is now a participant in sex. Your child is now a sex haver at age 3 because sex has been had on the child. Gates once broken, you can't fix those gates. That's trauma. I've already discussed in old prophecies that people, when children are touched young, those spirits get inside those soul wounds. And it's not until maturity, puberty, and just general pressures of life, when children are going through the maturing process and they're already going through existential angst. Who am I? Why is my body like this? And all the various chemicals that now bring on male and female adulthood start pumping through that child. Then you start noticing, oh, why is my 9-year-old, why is my 11-year-old so overly sexualized? Why am I catching my 6-year-old son masturbating? Why? Because the child's been touched. The Bible says clearly, do not awaken love until the time. Do not awaken love until the time. So the pressure that is going to be against young people is just unfortunate, because this nation is so filled with predators and pedophiles and grown men, 31-year-olds who will look at a 14-year-old and start singing "Seems Like You're Ready" and "Your Body's Calling to Me." Diddy and R. Kelly are not anomalies. They're actually the norm. They're just predators with money and the ability to have a network. People are oversexed in this country. And for some reason, Satan always directs their needle to the under 18s. To destroy the generation coming after. Protect your children. The last part of the prophecy, there will be fighting war in this country, Yah says, but not at this time. The destabilizing breakdown of the nation must come first before a war can start. Therefore, there will be a destabilizing of the people and a disenfranchisement of their rights until everything about them is unsteady and unpredictable. Only when they are like a tossing sea can a great war start here, when everything is taken away and they have no choice but to fight. The government will fight and the people will fight, and great slaughter will be seen here on a scale that has never been witnessed before. The foreigners are already being thrown out so as to be out of harm's way. As I said, my quarrel is not with them, but with the natural born of this land. Until I have secured the foreign born, I will not raise my hand for the war horse. I will bring them out with a sovereign hand, and they will also go out under the hand of the Lord, driving them to safety of their own shores. War is coming, but not now. The Lord is holding open a door for people to leave if they want, but also they will be driven from here. So for a long time, I prophesied here on the Master's Voice that diaspora would come to America. Diaspora is a scattering of peoples to all the different parts of the world. I prophesied that diaspora would come to America, and that diaspora would be twofold, well, multiple fold, in that some people will start to get a feeling from their heart that they really should go back to the country that they came from. It's not going to be because they've been listening to Master's Voice prophecies and they're now scared and they now want to leave America. It's going to be almost like a sort of a moving of the Holy Spirit, like the edges of the sea lapping on the land gently. Like you really should pursue other avenues of where to live. You start to just have a longing for a homeland that you came from. You start to have a longing for a homeland that you're totally disconnected from. Your parents come from there. You're born in America. You don't know anything about where you come from, but you just start feeling, you know what, I need to take a holiday there. You start to feel a pull, you start to feel a connection. And to understand more about how that's going to work, the God working in the heart of a people, or a person or a family through dreams or speaking to them directly, or just this longing, that the name of that prophecy is called diaspora. But then another way that it's going to happen is that it's going to happen by duress. And one of the types of duress that I talked about is the fact that when America begins to go through her pains, when America begins to go through her death pangs, basically, when the country is now starting to go through disenfranchisement, breaking down, economic hardship, people can't find jobs and things like that, you will start to see people leaving America because of situations that they can't help. Like, you live in a city and you lose your job, and then you're using up your savings, and you're pretty confident that you'll find another job, but you don't find another job. And then you have to downsize because you're thinking, my savings can't handle this. It's been a year of no work, and you're now stuck. Should I move to another place, or should I continue paying? And then the money is finishing. And then before you know it, you end up having to leave that city, maybe go back to where you come from. And then you keep thinking, I'll be able to come back in. But now look at the situation with what immigration is doing. Then you may not be able to come back, even if you previously held a green card or something like that. That's one way. Economic factors, Yah was saying, will squeeze a lot of people out. Smart people, Yah said, and this was in 2022, 2023, God said, smart people can already read the room. They could already look at America's economy, because there's some people who are very good with being able to look in the future and see, this money is going to be useless. This economy is going to do this and that and that. And they divested a long time ago, and they emigrated. A lot of rich people have gone to Europe already. Portugal and Turkey are destinations of choice. Some people have gone to Italy and things like that. A ton of people have gone to Africa. I spoke about that some years ago, that God was saying they've already gone and started over and have 3 brand new babies by now. And they've left the rest of the Americans like, if you guys can see what's coming, we can see. And they've taken their money to places like South Africa, like Nigeria, like Ghana, like Kenya. They've taken their money to places where $1 goes a long way. And so they're able to live like kings over there, starting over there, basically putting their hands to business, finding what they can do. And they're not concerned about the slow decline of the United States and the fact that we won't have the grid, we won't have healthcare and all that. That's not their business. Whether a massive earthquake takes place in California. They left California 2 years ago. And so Yah says that some people are wise. They haven't seen a single prophecy from me. They can simply read the writing on the wall and they're gone. So these are people who are not infected with the sickness of greatest country in the world. They're able to look and see decline and rot and lichen on the walls and decided, I'm not staying here to watch the entire house get taken over by mildew. I'm out of here. And so they left. That's one way. So people are going to leave because of a longing. They're going to relocate back to their countries. This is being led by your heart or being led by the Lord back to your point of origin. Some people are leaving and they're not going to their point of origin. They're foreign in those places. They're American. They don't belong there, but they've moved there. They've set up lives. And they're in Brazil. They're in Chile. They have no intention of coming back. So that's a second way. A third way is I spoke of economic factors and hard life factors, squeezing people out. And God was speaking of, for instance, Caribbean nations when he was speaking about that and saying things like, I'm going to drive you out of here. So some people, you lose your nursing license. It's so unfair. But you get driven out of that place, right? You get driven out of that place and then you end up having to go back to where you came from and you're lamenting, why? But then in the end, Yah said he's doing it for protection. The judgment that is coming upon America is for Americans. I've always said that. The judgment of America is for Americans. It's for the sons of the soil. If the sins of the soil are in the soil, Yah is saying he doesn't have a quarrel with a Mexican who just came here to try and make a buck. What is the judgment of America? The melting down of her steel towers, right? Through sulfuric balls that are going to come out of the sky for the child molesting that happens here. I saw huge balls of sulfur coming out of the sky and basically burning this country to a crisp. torching it, cooking it, as well as rockets and nukes. What does that have to do with the fact that a Mexican person comes here and stands on the side of the street trying to see if he can get a day's work? Nothing. Why should that man perish for sins that are in the bedrock? Like, that Mexican man has come here, maybe he's lived here and he has a good life, and he's got 3 children that he and his wife decided not a single one of them should end up in the toilet. Like, she never contacted Walmart and said, can you mail me an abortion pill? So why should that man cook with the rest of the abortion crew? No, God is just. And God says that one of the things he's going to do is he's simply going to loosen the economic screws of this country until everybody who was holding on to it is going to tumble right back to where they came from. And he says it's for safety against the great slaughter that will happen here on a scale that has never witnessed before. One of the things I used to prophesy in the past was that Yah says when the judgment of America begins to really squeeze, the people in the country will start to hate each other. I've already discussed that. And Yah said that the Japanese person in the office who has transferred fresh from Tokyo, been here 5 years, great work environment, is going to be thinking, what is wrong with these people? And there's going to be so much tension and so much backstabbing that that person is going to pack themselves right back to go and work for Mitsubishi Bank back where they came from. Like that. The enmity will be against flesh of the soil. And Yah said that foreigners will simply not understand it and start having conversations like, I don't think there's anything here for us anymore, Jan. Let's go back to South Africa. And then they just go like that. They'll just disconnect and walk away. I spoke about the Mexican exodus out of America. I spoke about the huge transfer of intellectual property and mental wealth that's going to take place when the Africans disconnect. The doctors, the lawyers, all of them, even second generation, are going to follow their parents right back to wherever they came from. So there's going to be a huge brain drain that will happen. There's already been a labor drain. People in different places where they pick strawberries and everything are already crying because ICE has driven away all the free labor that kept fruit coming to American tables. But there's going to be also a massive transfer of skilled labor out of the United States, which will affect the quality of life in this country, the economic stability of the country, and the basic earning power of the country. So there's that. Always remember that governments love it when people spend, and the people who spend the most are educated professionals and also, I guess, streamers from YouTube, because they make a ton of money, social media people. But the educated class is very important. And then all of a sudden, Yah says, when you get a massive disconnect of the educated class going back to Venezuela, going back to Canada, going back to wherever they came from, then America's going to be like, oh, I don't look as pretty as I used to. And also the economy is more sluggish because these people are going to leave with their money, with their assets, and with their life skills, their educational life skills, their degrees. So other places will be getting bonuses as good doctors come home, good lawyers, good architects, and things like that. And America is going to suffer that loss. Another way that people are going to leave, God was talking about, he will orchestrate situations whereby maybe something will happen back home and you have to go back home. And then when you get back home, he's going to speak to you. So the example he gave was Haitian people. And he said that Haitian people, for instance, but you can just extrapolate that to any nationality. He was saying that when you get that call that your grandmother is so sick, your mother is so sick, near death in Haiti, in Jamaica, in Guyana, you're going to rush back thinking that it's the end and you have to be there. And then you get there and she requires like 6 months of care. And she's like, I just need it to be you. And that woman, she's sick, but that sickness is of God. She's not actually going to die. This is what God was saying. I will orchestrate a way to get you out of here, to keep you safe. It is my protection. It is my preservation. It is my love. You go and see grandma and then she miraculously recovered. But by that time you've reconnected with your old friends. You found a great job and you start thinking about the 52 shifts a week that you do here, and you just don't want to come back. You just break your lease and just don't come back. That's one of the things that he was talking about. The last, final, and most obvious way is, of course, when all is said and done, we've passed all the stages and we get to the end stage where war breaks out here, then people will be fleeing, literally climbing over the border wall, packing cargo planes, sailing out by whatever boat they can do to get wherever. It's going to be literally fleeing for life. And Yah says that group of people now who have stayed, saying the prophecy is a lie, or not even knowing about the prophecy, or saying, oh no, it's probably going to be a little skirmish. God says now this is the people who will be most disenfranchised, because they'll be fleeing for life and they will not be able to take anything with them. So I've shared, I think it was in the prophecy about the government seizing wealth, that the U.S. government is going to make some sweeping changes that will affect property ownership in America. Who can be a property owner? They will literally start saying things like, you own 3 houses, that's too much for you. And they're going to come and start seizing property, and people are going to be running away with their title deeds, their gold bars, their treasures, necklaces, other things. Are going to be fleeing for the borders, and the government is basically going to gobble up a lot of standing wealth, like boats, like physical things that people can't run with, like homes and things like that. They're going to call it forfeit. And if the government also needs to come up with a false story to say, you know, he was a money launderer, you were not, you were just an investment banker and you have paperwork for everything. But they're just going to come up with an after story. They're going to paint you as an enemy of the state, and then once they paint you that way, then they're going to capture all your wealth and then say it's all forfeit, and they will share it among themselves. So don't think it's necessarily this government. The U.S. government is a long-running entity. Whoever's sitting in the seat is going to be building up the beast system, and in the beast system, the rule is that the citizenry will have nothing and be happy. And so God is talking about this final part of the war prophecy. America, your war years are coming. 2026, the war years of America are coming. Says that there's going to be fought war in the country, where the government is now fighting the people and the people is fighting the government. But to get to that kind of tense state, the Lord is saying that the nation has to be destabilized first. And the only way to destabilize the people is to disenfranchise them. So we're back to the Constitution. We're back to the first glistening tears that Americans are starting to cry. He's ruining everything. He's establishing a dictatorship. Well, yes, that's a very accurate assessment. He is ruining everything, and he is establishing a dictatorship, because a dictatorship is the proper punishment for the United States. Since freedom is something that we couldn't seem to manage, restriction is the answer to people who turn freedom into license for a little bit of pleasure and a little bit of sin and a little bit of compromise and a little bit of everyone does that, and you don't know his heart and you shouldn't judge. And who are you to judge? So, disenfranchisement and the removal of rights. The Constitution is going to be broken down. The Constitution is going to be used like a dirty shoe rag and then eventually thrown in the bin. They're going to get to the point where they're tired of pretending to adhere to the Constitution. You might as well adjust to the fact that the Constitution doesn't actually even exist to the leadership of this country, because they're not navigating by it. That's where the clash is right now that we keep seeing. And we're going to sue here. And this group of people sued and they eventually won. What's happening is that the breaks of the country, the checks and balances, are being broken down. And people keep thinking that by running to the rule of law, they will fix it. But the whole point is to destabilize, to continually challenge the rule of law until the rule of law loses a landmark case. And the rule of law is going to lose a landmark case. It's inevitable. It's a matter of time, because this is the punishment upon the country. When God has set a punishment that the rule of law will fail, because he says what? Because you worship it. You worship liberty. You worship freedom. You worship the flag. You worship autonomy. So those are the very things that he's going to snip holes in, because when they fail you, then you will realize that worship is for God. Worship is not for your civil rights. Worship is not for the Constitution. Worship is not for the president. that you were worshiping 5 minutes ago, and then all of a sudden, all the insults. Why are you insulting the man that you loved? Why are you insulting the person that you prayed for? Like, why be schizo? You loved this man. This man was Cyrus. This man was Jesus's PA who left heaven to come and rule in our midst. Why are you angry? Why are you upset? Why are you making videos and content? Remember that seeds sown bring harvests. And harvests, as far as I know, are for eating, according to the story of Thanksgiving. So, disenfranchisement, the rule of law, must fail because the beast system is a lawless but highly organized system. You cannot superimpose American laws on top of the beast system laws because the beast system laws are in the Bible. I don't know where American laws are except in the Constitution, but beast system laws are in the Bible, in Revelation 13 and in Daniel chapter 7. The operation of the beast system, how it runs, is there in a not so obvious typeface. But Yah gave me the grace and I taught this thing in the Kenya prophecy, and then I snipped it. It's more than 1 hour to let you know how this thing will operate. And it's in many of the beast system prophecies. So spiritual things always supersede natural things. The Constitution is natural. Yes, it contains a little bit of thou shalt not and this and that and that. But America's barely kept that thing anyway, traditionally. But the beast system laws are Bible things. They're prophesied. And so they cannot operate symbiotically. The American laws must fail and the beast system laws will rule. And so that is where we're heading. And all the noise that people are making and the tears are just the hiccups that happen when people don't want to adjust to what God is saying because they keep thinking there's an out. There's no out. The most peaceful people will be the people who understand that Revelation 13 and Revelation 18 are facts, and then begin to simply seek the peace of God through all that, because it's not going to go away because of tears, and the rapture is not coming before those things fulfill themselves. And so destabilizing the nation means destabilizing the people, taking away what the people expect, taking away the social contract, meaning the education people expect, the good roads people expect, the good hospitals, the fact that there should be electricity and Wi-Fi and there should be food in the stores. These are things that governments automatically promise citizens. But then when these things start to fail, our individual lives get destabilized. And when we are destabilized, people all around the world, when this stuff happens to you, you get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, you get angry. And when you get angry, you get loud. And when you get loud, you want to go outside and cause some pain. And then they send riot police on you, and then there's fighting, and then there's this and that until eventually people take up arms, and they're waiting for that. They're going to let it get that bad because they're waiting for that part, because the minute the people revolt, beast state is coming in. Concentration camps, shooting all the patriots, all of that stuff. Bombing Texas one time because they're the loudest and the most rebellious. That kind of thing. They're just waiting for it to get there. And if it gets there too slow, they will simply stir the pot until it gets there faster, because they have a date with the devil. So, God says that until he secures the people that he's going to bring out of the nation, he will not raise his hand for a war horse, and he's going to bring them out by his sovereign hand. And they will also go out under his hand, driving them. So God is talking about people that he's going to draw out, and he's also talking about people that he's going to drive back to the safety of their own nations. The war is coming, but not now. Yah is holding open a door for people to leave if they want to, but also they will be driven from here. I've delivered the fullness of the Lord's message. I received it today, May the 28th, a day before the 6-year anniversary of the Master's Voice Prophecy blog. The prophecy is called 2026. America's war years are coming. God is talking about destabilization in every single area of American life. and how it's literally going to go to the tumultuous, conflicting upheaval that we know as war, politically, financially, economically, spiritually, socially, even in the midst of racial tension. This is what I've been covering. You're listening to Celestial Revival. This is the Master's Voice Prophecy blog, the main blog where most of the prophecies, the older ones, especially in the early years, I was extremely diligent with putting everything up. So there's about 475 written prophecies that you can get into, and I highly recommend that you read the blog because it's a standalone work. It's just different from the videos. You can find it located at www.the-masters-voice.com. I want to thank those who support the channel. Your blessings are seen and received, and I pray that God will multiply them back to you. Please, this is not a monetized channel. You've never come here and seen an advert. If you do see an ad, it's because YouTube forces adverts on certain types of content, like when I talk about secret government programs, or when I talk about Israel, false Israel over there in the Middle East, then they always try to ruin those videos because they don't want people to be able to sit through the videos. But I just recommend that you stick it out because it's the odd video here and there. It's not every video. This is an unmonetized channel. I am not asking for anything. You are under no duress to give. Please do not start giving yourself pressure in your soul like I must support the prophetess. I work. I'm fine. All that you would do if you're moved to do it is that God says that when the ox is working in the field, don't put a muzzle on it, meaning that it can eat some of the oats that it's crushing for the farmer. That's basically it. Please stay away from scammers. They're duplicating my logo, duplicating the channel name, coming up with false channels, approaching you and telling you that they can see into the future and they can see your prophetic destiny, and all you have to do is sow a seed and they'll pray for you. This does not track with my personality at all. Honestly, by now, people should know better, but new people keep getting scammed. Please don't engage. Report that person to whatever platform. Report them on Facebook, TikTok, wherever, and then block them and continue with your life. God bless you, and until I see you again, goodbye.